Chapter 496. Wang Daoyuan entered Zhouwan's cave abode and smiled. Hallmaster, I'm back. A day apart feels like 3 autumns, and we haven't seen each other for over 3,000 years. How have you been? Without waiting for Zhouwan's reply, he sat down on the stone chair. Holding a spiritual fruit, he gnawed on it while saying, "It still feels good to be home." Zhouwan no longer took his teasing seriously. She walked out of the backyard and asked, "Why do I feel that your aura isn't right? What have you been doing for the past 3 years?" Wang Daoyuan took off the spirit-restricting silk cloak. "It's nothing. I refined spiritual fire, and my spiritual energy has the characteristics of spiritual fire." Zhouwan used her spiritual sense to examine him and asked worriedly, "Refining spiritual fire is extremely dangerous, and you will be severely injured if you're not careful. You refined 5 spiritual fires, so you're not injured, right?" Wang Daoyuan smirked. "Don't worry. The method of refining spiritual fire is part of my cultivation technique, so I didn't even suffer any backlash. My body is much stronger than before, especially my kidneys. They are much stronger than before." Zhouwan was teased by him many times, so she naturally understood the meaning in his words and threw the spiritual fruit in her hand at him. Wang Daoyuan caught the spiritual fruit and ate it. "Hallmaster, are you feeding me? Oh right, how's your comprehension of the Golden Core realm? My strength has increased greatly, and I can fight with ordinary early-stage Golden Core realm cultivators. I can protect you." Zhouwan sighed. "How can it be that easy? My comprehension of the Violet Palace realm is enough, and I should be at the peak of the Violet Palace realm. But at the Golden Core realm, it involves the power of laws. This is also the reason why there is a heavenly tribulation when breaking through to the Golden Core realm. Most cultivators at the peak of the Violet Palace realm don't have a strong enough body and can't comprehend the laws. I have a special physique, so there's no problem with my body. It was just that comprehending laws completely depended on luck. If you're lucky, you'll be able to comprehend it all of a sudden. If you're unlucky, even if you're daydreaming for 100 years, it'll be useless." Wang Daoyuan ignited a wisp of crimson yang true fire in his hand. "If you want to comprehend other laws, I really can't help you. But I can help you with the laws of fire. I have refined the spiritual fire, and my entire body is covered in flames. Why don't I stay in your room? You can just stare at me when you comprehend the laws. I don't mind." Zhouwan glanced at him. "In your dreams. Stay in the front yard. If you dare to enter the backyard, I'll cut you down with my sword." She condensed a ball of fire attribute spiritual power in her hand, and used it to draw in the scarlet yang real fire in Wang Daoyuan's hands. The moment the scarlet yang real fire came into contact with the fire attribute spiritual energy, it began to burn. Wang Daoyuan spurred the flame, and the flame suddenly shot up more than a foot high. He said proudly, "The true fire of scarlet yang is too dangerous. It's better for me to stay in your room and protect you." Zhouwan took out the scarlet yuan flowing flame sword and pointed it below his waist. "If you dare to play tricks again, you'll have to bear the consequences." Wang Daoyuan felt a fatal threat and immediately gave in. Zhouwan drew away a wisp of rootless fire and intimidated Wang Daoyuan. She returned to the backyard complacently. Wang Daoyuan also swallowed a purple rhythm pill and sat down to cultivate. After refining the purple rhythm pill, the spiritual power contained in it entered his dantian. The 5 spiritual power seeds were like wolves seeing lambs, and instantly swallowed the spiritual power. The purple rhythm pill's effect of increasing cultivation was gone just like that. Of course, there was also an advantage. The pill toxins were also gone. No matter how strong the pill toxins were, they could not escape from the 5 elements. Naturally, they could not escape the refinement of the 5-element spiritual fire. In the future, when he reached the Golden Core realm, his body would be even stronger. He could use the 5-element spiritual fire to refine all the accumulated pill toxins in his body. In order to preserve the effects of the purple rhythm pill, he had to suppress the 5 spiritual power seeds. His cultivation speed was not as fast as not taking the pill. There was no point in taking the purple rhythm pill in the future. He might as well keep the purple rhythm pill and use other spiritual items to increase his cultivation. He took out a jar of 100-year-old spiritual peach dew. He had plenty of older spiritual peach dew, but he did not dare to take it out. Zhouwan was also an alcoholic. If he took it out, it would be snatched away. So it was not easy to explain the age. He drank the jar of spiritual wine. There was no need to refine the spiritual wine. The spiritual wine could enter his meridians in a dozen breaths. Wang Daoyuan drew the spiritual power into his dantian, and the 5 spiritual fires instantly devoured the spiritual power. This speed was several times faster than normal cultivation. It felt great to have resources and the ability to use them quickly. After cultivating in Xueqi's cave abode for 7 years, his cultivation had reached the pinnacle of the Violet Palace realm. As early as a year ago, his spiritual power cultivation had already reached the Great Circle. As for the comprehension of the Violet Palace realm, it wasn't difficult. There was the comprehension of the 5-element Taoist, the myriad corpse Taoist, the Patriarch, and his master, the Thunderflame Taoist, as well as Xueqi's one-on-one teaching. It only took a year for him to reach the pinnacle of the Violet Palace realm. Jiang Jingming's ability wasn't weak in the underworld sex encampment. He could handle all kinds of matters well. He would only be contacted when there was a major issue. In the past few years, Wang Daoyuan and Xueqi did not fan the flames between the demon race and half-demon race. The situation between the two sides had eased up a little. What Jiang Jingming had to deal with were the trivial matters of the daily transactions with the demon race and half-demon race. In the spiritual pearl, the 4 spiritual fires had also grown to the level of spiritual fires. However, their grades were still a little low. Apart from the spiritual fire of life, which was a 3rd-grade spiritual fire, the other 4 spiritual fires were only 2nd-grade spiritual fires. The expansion of the spiritual field in the spiritual pearl had also slowed down. In the past, it would take 20 years to expand 1 mu of spiritual field. Now it would take 100 years. However, the spiritual fire had a high growth rate. The spiritual field would grow faster in the future. The red-winged crow's cultivation had also reached 3rd-grade spiritual fire, and its origin feather was already a foot long. It could be used to refine the vermilion bird fan. The largest blood fire hibiscus was also 3rd-grade spiritual fire, so it wouldn't be a problem to refine it into a fan handle. The red-winged crow's fighting strength wasn't much weaker than Lin Yun's. However, it couldn't show itself. Otherwise, it would be exposed in the 100 Spirit Lord's cave abode. Wang Daoyuan had been using all kinds of fire attribute spiritual items to tempt the red-winged crow to hand over its origin feather. The red-winged crow had the bloodline of a divine beast and was extremely intelligent. However, it had been staying in the spiritual pearl all this time and was relatively naive. How could it compete with the cunning Wang Daoyuan? It quickly agreed to hand over its origin feather. Wang Daoyuan didn't have to pull it out himself. The bird could let its origin feather fall off on its own. The red-winged crow didn't suffer any serious injuries after losing its origin feather. It was just a little listless and its spiritual power was unstable. After eating some fire attribute spiritual items, it stayed near the red sun primordial fire to rest. Wang Daoyuan placed this origin feather on the red sun primordial fire to slowly nourish it. Using the primordial fire to refine the impurities, it could be refined into the vermilion bird fan. The other 4 origin feather had been nourished with spiritual fire for many years. Even the weakest one, the wood attribute origin feather, had advanced to 3rd-grade spiritual fire. At this time, a violent fluctuation of fire spiritual power came from the backyard of the cave abode. How could Wang Daoyuan let go of such an opportunity? He immediately ran into the backyard garden. Just as he was about to enter the boudoir to take a look, he heard an unusually wild laughter. Brat surnamed Wang. Before she finished speaking, Wang Daoyuan hurriedly asked, "Hall Master, have you thought it through? Do you want me to protect you?" Xueqi walked out of the boudoir and glanced at him. "You wish. I have comprehended a trace of the law of fire. The time to form my core has come." Wang Daoyuan asked, "Do you have a place to form your core?" "The place I know of with abundant fire spiritual power is only 3rd-grade spiritual fire. It's really not enough to form my core." Xueqi said proudly, "Your ability to find spiritual veins is far inferior to mine. I have already found a place to form my core. It's at the Snow Dragon volcano. All you need to do is to prepare and protect me." Wang Daoyuan had heard of the Snow Dragon volcano. There was a 4th-grade spiritual fire there. However, because it was near the Arctic ice fields, there was often snow on the mountain. The supply of spiritual power was definitely not a problem to form his core there. The biggest problem was that it could easily disturb the demon race in the Arctic ice fields. Chapter 497. Wang Daoyuan pondered for a long time before asking, I don't know much about the Snow Dragon volcano. I only know that it's not far from the frozen ice plains. With my strength, it'll be good if I can take down one 4th-rank demon beast. If a large number of 4th-rank demon beasts are attracted, I won't be able to do anything. Xueqi didn't care at all. Don't worry, the Snow Dragon volcano is more than 20,000 kilometers away from the frozen ice plains. The core formation process won't attract attention before the heavenly tribulation. After the core formation is successful, the tribulation will cause a bigger commotion. Even if the tribulation is successful, it won't take more than 2 hours. Demon beasts are naturally afraid of heavenly might, so they don't dare to approach during the tribulation. It's only during the heavenly tribulation that they dare to take advantage of it. In the end, the heavenly tribulation will only take about 15 minutes. Excluding the time it takes for demon beasts to arrive, you only need to hold on for a little while. When the heavenly tribulation is over, we can escape. Wang Daoyuan nodded. It hasn't even been 15 minutes, so there should only be a few demon beasts that dare to come. However, do you have any spiritual items that can assist in core formation? Xueqi shook her head. The 4 top forces and Blood Shadow don't have a stable supply of such items. In the past, there were some spiritual plants that could assist in core formation. Now that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is insufficient, these spiritual plants are either dead or half dead. The only stable spiritual item that can assist in core formation is the inner core of a 4th-rank demon beast, also known as a demon beast golden core. 4th-rank demon beasts can fly, so we can't catch them with just 2 peak Zifu realm cultivators. Fortunately, the most dangerous part of core formation is the heavenly tribulation. Even if the process of forming a golden core fails, there won't be any danger. At most, the body will be damaged, and it'll be fine after a few decades of recuperation. This was also true. The success rate of core formation mainly depended on the amount of qi, blood, and true essence. If the qi, blood, and true essence were abundant, and the body was strong enough, the probability of forming a golden core was very high. Most of those who failed to form a golden core died under the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, if the body and true essence didn't reach the level of core formation, no one would try. Xueqi's talent was even stronger than the 12th uncle's. Although she didn't have a heavenly spirit root, she wasn't far from it. On top of that, with his unique constitution, his physical body, and his blood qi were not weak. It was not difficult for him to condense a golden core. Wang Daoyuan asked again, how do you deal with the heavenly tribulation? You have the Zhou family's ancestral battle constitution. After you formed your gold core, you automatically awakened a minor divine ability. After the 9 golden core heavenly tribulations, there will be a minor divine ability tribulation. Have you thought about how to deal with it? I've even thought of the child's name. Don't be too hard on yourself. The heavenly tribulation could only be withstood by oneself. If others were to participate, not only would it worsen the heavenly tribulation, they would also be trapped in it. Those who interfered would not be facing heavenly tribulation, but heavenly punishment. The heavenly tribulation was a test, and there would always be a chance of survival. The heavenly punishment was relentless. Even though she was used to being teased, Xueqi's cheeks still turned red. If you can think of it, how can I not? Do you really think that I've been a hall master for more than 200 years just because I've been doing nothing? I've prepared 5 defensive magic tools to resist the lightning tribulation, and I've also prepared healing and recovery pills. With the 9 golden core heavenly tribulations and the minor divine ability tribulation, I can still withstand it. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, then I'm relieved. I didn't think of the child's name in vain. I still need about a year to refine the vermilion bird fan. With 4 of the 5 life-bound magic tools of the 5 elements devil subduing seal, I'll be more confident in dealing with 4th-rank demonic beasts. Take advantage of this year's time to make some more preparations. Xueqi nodded, then reacted. Who let you in? Go to the front yard and refine. Wang Daoyuan ran to the front yard dejectedly, preparing to refine the vermilion bird fan. Tu Yuming helped with the processing of the materials. He was also a 3rd-rank mid-grade artificer, so this wasn't a problem. The 5 life-bound tail feathers were of different lengths, so they also needed to be adjusted. The red-feathered crow's life-bound tail feather was the most important. As the centermost feather, it didn't need to be processed, and was only 1 foot and 5 inches long. The wood and earth element feathers were adjusted to a length of 1 foot and 2 inches. The metal and water feathers were placed at the edge and adjusted to 1 foot long. To a third-rank artificer, changing the size of the materials by extracting and adding spiritual power wasn't a big deal. After processing the tail feathers, Tu Yuming cut down the largest blood-fire hibiscus and used the trunk to make a 6-inch fan handle. Wang Daoyuan took the processed materials out of the space in the spirit pearl and used some fire element supplementary materials to fuse the tail feathers and fan handle into one. After tempering it with fire, it took shape. Having refined 3 life-bound magic tools, he was already very proficient in using spiritual power to condense tool patterns. Even though Mount Vermilion Bird's tool patterns were more complicated than the previous 3, he still only used half a year to refine it. Then, he drew out flames from the 5 spiritual power seeds and nurtured the 5 fan feathers. After refining the spiritual fire, nurturing the life-bound magic tools became easier. Putting the life-bound magic tools into the dantian and placing them near the corresponding spiritual power seeds, they would be able to absorb spiritual power on their own. Of course, to upgrade their grade, they still needed the help of spiritual power. Wang Daoyuan tried to fuse the 4 life-bound magic tools into the 5 elements demon suppression seal. Its power had already surpassed the purple lightning demon slaying token by a lot. It wasn't difficult to severely injure an early-stage golden core cultivator in one move. He secretly ran to the backyard and came to the door of his room. Just as he was about to enter, the Scarlet Phoenix flowing flame sword flew out. Wang Daoyuan dodged the flying sword and said with a smile, "Hallmaster, I'm here to report that the Vermilion Bird fan has been refined. We can set off for the Snow Dragon volcano." Zhouwan had also finished packing. She wore 2 yin and yang rings and wore a red dress. She wore the spirit-binding silk cloak that Wang Daoyuan gave her. The two left Guiyan Market from different directions and met up 1,000 miles north of Guiyan Market. Guiyan Market was more than 100,000 miles away from Snow Dragon volcano. At such a long distance, flying on a sword was enough to exhaust spiritual power several times. Wang Daoyuan's wind-fire flying kite was too eye-catching and wasn't suitable to take it out. Zhouwan took out a fiery red flying boat. It was called the Scarlet Phoenix Flying Boat. The Scarlet Phoenix Flying Boat was more than 3 feet long and 8 feet wide. It could fly more than 7,000 miles in 2 hours. The two rode the flying boat and headed north. They passed by the Mirror Treasure Lake Oasis. There were many Foundation establishment cultivators here. It had been almost 100 years since the last time they explored the Yellow Spring secret realm and lost a lot of people. The group of people who escaped back then was probably mostly dead. The people who came later didn't know how powerful this place was and continued to cultivate here. After passing the Mirror Treasure Lake Oasis, there was a desert in front of them. Occasionally, there were some small oases that were occupied by half-demon tribes and demons. The two of them were just passing by. The half-demons and demons wouldn't come out to cause trouble. They walked and stopped along the way to enjoy the scenery. It took them 5 to 6 days to reach Snow Dragon Volcano. Snow Dragon Volcano wasn't small. The volcano was cone-shaped and had a diameter of almost 100 miles. The volcano hadn't erupted for many years, so the fire spiritual power that was released wasn't much. Therefore, snow could be used outside the mountain. The flying boat stopped in the sky 100 miles south of the volcano. Zhouwan pointed at the volcano's mouth and said, "The fire spiritual power in this volcano is restrained. There isn't much spiritual power outside. If I want to form my core, I have to go inside the volcano. However, there is a group of poisonous lava fire scorpions inside. These guys can grow to the 3rd rank upper grade at most. They live in the volcano all year round and have strong resistance to fire magic. With my methods, it will take a lot of effort to kill a group of poisonous lava fire scorpions. I'm afraid it will take a few months. If the commotion is too big, it might even alert a 4th rank demon beast. You have all 5 elements and have more methods. I'll leave it to you." Wang Daoyuan's Gui Water Death Flame could directly attack the soul. It couldn't be easier to deal with spiritual insects. However, in the volcano's mouth, the Gui Water Death Flame couldn't be used. He could try using the Soul Burying Bell. If it didn't work, he could release the Returning Dust Flame and Scarlet Yang True Fire. No matter what scorpions they were, they would be burned to death. He patted his chest and said, "Hallmaster, don't worry. This small matter can't stop me. Please rest for a moment and watch me deal with these bugs. Chapter 498. Wang Daoyuan flew to the volcano on his sword and came to the top of the crater. The crater was only 100 feet in diameter, and the lower he went, the bigger the space. Waves of heat gushed out from the crater. After all, it was a level 4 mid-grade lava lake. Even in a stable situation, it couldn't be underestimated. The lava lake was only 30,000 feet from the crater, and the Snow Dragon volcano was 20,000 feet high. The lava lake here was 10,000 feet below the ground. Using his divine sense, he probed the walls of the crater. Just near the crater, there were a large number of poisonous lava fire scorpions. However, these guys were of low grades, only second grade mid-grade. They seemed to be underage scorpions. The lower he went, the higher the grades of the poisonous lava fire scorpions. Near the lava, there were more than 10 third-grade upper-grade poisonous lava fire scorpions. These guys weren't very big, only 5 or 6 feet long. However, the size of a third-grade spiritual insect couldn't be judged by its appearance. There were too many demonic beasts and spiritual insects that could change their size. Wang Daoyuan didn't plan to subdue the scorpions. They didn't have a queen like bees, and he could control a group of them by controlling the queen. Since he couldn't subdue them, he couldn't leave any of them alive for Xueqi's safety. Scorpions were very sensitive. It was impossible to sneak up on a third-grade upper-grade poisonous lava fire scorpion. As soon as he entered the crater, he was discovered. He took out the Azure Dragon Pearl, and a 20-meter-long Azure Dragon Phantom flew out. The life force of the poisonous lava fire scorpions within 100 feet of the pearl was instantly sucked dry. These guys were of too low grades and had no resistance to the Azure Dragon Pearl. Seeing that their companions were killed, the third-grade poisonous lava fire scorpions below attacked Wang Daoyuan. They used their tails to shoot out flame needles with a trace of black gas, which were obviously poisonous. Wang Daoyuan didn't take these spells head-on. He flew out of the crater on his sword to avoid the spells. Xueqi needed to form her core in the crater, so she needed to stay here for a few months. He couldn't cause too much of a commotion to avoid attracting demonic beasts. He needed to get rid of these poisonous lava fire scorpions as soon as possible. He transformed the earth and fire attribute spiritual energy in his body into dust-returning flame and true sun fire. Casting the meteor fall technique, the flaming meteors smashed into the volcanic crater one after another. After many improvements, the meteor fall technique was extremely powerful. These scorpions weren't stupid. They didn't dare to take the meteorites head-on. Wang Daoyuan's goal was not to kill these scorpions, but to ignite the magma lake below. The meteorite was made up of flames, and it instantly ignited the lava. He took out the vermilion bird fan and gently fanned it a few times. The earthy yellow and scarlet gold flames formed a fire tornado in the crater of the volcano. Wherever the fire whirlwind touched, no life could survive. Even the rocks were incinerated. Those rank 3 venomous lava fire scorpions used their innate spells to attack the fire whirlwind, but the effect was minimal. Soon, all of the venom fire scorpions were dealt with by the fire whirlwind. The poison fire scorpion was unwilling to just sit there and wait for its death. It did its best to escape towards the mouth of the volcano. Wang Daoyuan had been waiting for them to come. He activated the Azure Dragon Pearl again, and every venom fire scorpion that came out died. After a quarter of an hour, there was not a single living thing left in the crater. The life force stored in the Azure Dragon Pearl was also full. However, he didn't let the Azure Dragon Pearl refine the life force. Xueqi would definitely be injured after the tribulation. The life force would be left for her to heal. The dead venomous lava fire scorpions were all burned to ashes. Although it was Wang Daoyuan who came looking for trouble, he didn't feel guilty. The fight for survival between the alien species was a life-and-death struggle. In every beast tide, tens of thousands of humans died at the hands of the alien species. Killing one more demon beast meant that dozens, hundreds, or even more people would die in a beast tide in the future. After cleaning up the crater of the volcano, he took back the rootless fire. The Crimson Yang True Fire remained in the magma. It could burn the magma and produce a large amount of fire spirit chi, which would be of great help to Xueqi's core formation. Xueqi came to the crater of the volcano and smiled. I really underestimated you. I didn't expect you to finish off a nest of venomous lava fire scorpions so quickly. Wang Daoyuan raised his head and said proudly, Of course. In the future, you'll realize that you underestimated me in many ways. Xueqi steered the flying boat and landed by the lava lake below. She found a clean place and sat down cross-legged. Wang Daoyuan didn't think of setting up an array formation to resist the thunder tribulation. Unlike dermic weapons, array formations couldn't resist the thunder tribulation. That was because the spirit qi in the array formation didn't come from the person undergoing the tribulation. Therefore, the thunder tribulation would see it as an external object and strengthen it. To weaken the thunder tribulation, one could choose a place with special terrain. For example, if one underwent the tribulation in the crater of the volcano, the water and metal element thunder tribulations would be weakened by the magma. Such a naturally formed terrain was also a manifestation of the laws, and wouldn't cause the thunder tribulation to strengthen. Xueqi condensed her golden core in the crater of the volcano while Wang Daoyuan stood guard around her. If any demonic beasts approached, they would kill them without exception. After staying here for half a year, there was finally some movement in the crater of the volcano. A strong wave of spirit qi was emitted from the crater of the volcano. Soon after, a crimson ball with a diameter of 7 inches appeared and slowly descended. This was the golden core. Once the golden core fell, the thunder tribulation would soon descend. Dark clouds began to appear in the sky, and there was a pressure that covered an area of 15 kilometers. Wang Daoyuan immediately cut off his connection with the rootless fire in the lava lake to avoid being recognized as an external interference by the heavenly tribulation. Then, he retreated 15 kilometers away from the crater of the volcano. More and more dark clouds gathered in the sky, and finally formed a cluster of dark clouds with a diameter of 15 kilometers. The center of the cluster of dark clouds was facing the crater of the volcano. Soon, a bluish-white thunderbolt as thick as a child's arm descended from the sky. The thunder tribulation had officially descended. The power of the first thunder tribulation was very weak. Even a peak Zifu realm cultivator could easily withstand it. Xueqi took out a 4th-tier low-grade fiery red shield and directly blocked the first thunder tribulation. 10 breaths later, the second bluish-white thunderbolt descended from the sky. This thunderbolt was already as thick as an adult's arm. However, Xueqi's shield was strong enough and the second thunder tribulation did not cause much damage to it. Another 10 breaths later, the third bluish-white thunderbolt descended. This thunderbolt was as thick as a water bucket. Xueqi's shield still managed to withstand this thunderbolt. However, the light of the shield was somewhat dim. The 9 golden core heavenly tribulations were divided into 3 groups. After each group of thunder tribulation, there would be a 15-minute interval. The person undergoing the tribulation could use this time to recover from their injuries. After 15 minutes, the 4th thunder tribulation descended. This thunderbolt was already golden in color, and its thickness was the same as the first thunder tribulation. After Xueqi's shield received this thunderbolt, a huge crack appeared on it. Soon, the 5th thunder tribulation descended. The shield was directly shattered, and part of the thunderbolt struck Xueqi's body. However, she had a special constitution after all and only suffered minor injuries. She took out a 4th-tier low-grade mirror. The 6th thunder tribulation descended. The mirror was shattered and the power of the thunderbolt was exhausted. Xueqi took out a healing pill and consumed it to recover from her injuries. 15 minutes later, the purple thunderbolt descended. Xueqi took out a 4th-tier low-grade magic weapon to block it. After the thunder tribulation destroyed the magic weapon, it also caused some injuries to her. After the 8th thunder tribulation destroyed the magic weapon, about 30% of its power fell on Xueqi's body. She was seriously injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. When the 9th thunder tribulation descended, Xueqi took out her magic weapon and condensed the phantom of a scarlet wand to resist it together. After the magic weapon was destroyed, the phantom of the scarlet wand dissipated. However, more than half of the spiritual power fell on Xueqi's body. This time, the spiritual power in her body fluctuated between strong and weak. After spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, blood kept seeping out from the corners of her mouth. After the 9th golden core heavenly tribulation, the 5 magic weapons that Xueqi prepared were all destroyed and she was seriously injured. She immediately took a healing pill and drank a jar of 100-year spiritual peach dew. After recovering her injuries and spiritual power, she prepared to deal with the minor divine power tribulation. For her, the thunder tribulation was just an appetizer. The last minor divine power tribulation was the main course. This tribulation could not be resisted with ordinary magic weapons. She could only rely on her natal magic weapon and minor divine power to resist it. Chapter 499. The heavenly tribulation was about to end and the demonic beasts that wanted to take advantage of her should be ready. He could not help with the tribulation transcendence and could only try his best to deal with these demonic beasts. Fortunately, the elixirs that Xueqi prepared were good. After 15 minutes, most of her injuries were healed. The tribulation cloud emitted the pressure of a divine beast. A moment later, a scarlet Luan divine bird with a wingspan of more than 100 feet dived down towards Xueqi with a large sea of fire. Xueqi also took out her natal dermic artifact. A scarlet Luan phantom with a sea of fire went up to meet it. At this moment, the scarlet Luan phantom was the original form of the dermic artifact and carried the power of a natal dermic artifact. After 9 golden core heavenly tribulations, Xueqi was already a true golden core cultivator. This scarlet Luan phantom also carried the power of a minor divine ability. The 2 scarlet Luans met and spat out scarlet flames. These flames were not condensed with ordinary fire attribute spirit energy. They seemed to contain a trace of spirit fire. The minor divine ability tribulation was exactly the same as the minor divine ability that a tribulation transcendence cultivator comprehended. It seemed that Xueqi's minor divine ability should be the legendary Scarlet Luan Divine Fire. In the future, with this minor divine ability, there was hope that she could condense spirit fire. The 2 Scarlet Luans were entangled in the air. Xueqi's dermic artifact was obviously weaker. The heavenly tribulation Scarlet Luan was obviously stronger and suppressed the dermic artifact. Xueqi injected all her spirit energy into the dermic artifact and drank a few mouthfuls of wine to replenish her spirit energy. At this moment, a purple light flickered between her eyebrows and there were even phoenix cries. She had even used her purple mansion resonance. When a cultivator underwent the tribulation transcendence, even if their quintessential essence and blood were exhausted, as long as they still had a breath of life, the gift of heaven and earth after the heavenly tribulation could completely restore them. However, the power of this minor divine ability tribulation was not weak. Xueqi tried her best but still could not resist it. The heavenly tribulation Scarlet Luan pressed the dermic artifact into the mouth of the volcano. Xueqi used her quintessential essence and blood to resist, but it only slowed down the heavenly tribulation Scarlet Luan's descent. After half a cup of tea's time, Xueqi's magical item's original form collapsed, and the heavenly tribulation Red Luan pounced on her. Sensing the collapse of a scarlet Luan phantom, Wang Daoyuan subconsciously wanted to rescue it. Just as he was about to enter the range of 15 kilometers, a bolt of blue-white lightning fell from the sky and struck less than a foot in front of him. This was a warning from the heavenly tribulation. He calmed down and stopped moving forward. In the crater of the volcano, Xueqi raised a spiritual energy shield to resist the flames of the heavenly tribulation Scarlet Luan. Her spiritual energy barrier was quickly burned through by the flames, and the flames burned her body. She was also very ambitious. At the same time, she continued to refine the tribulation divine flames. 15 minutes later, the divine flames of the heavenly tribulation were gradually extinguished. The pressure of the tribulation clouds also disappeared, and the dark clouds in the sky turned into golden auspicious clouds. The golden core heavenly tribulation was considered to have passed. If he had failed to transcend the tribulation clouds would have dispersed. Looking at the auspicious clouds in the sky, Xueqi had succeeded. Wang Daoyuan immediately rushed to the mouth of the volcano. Xueqi, who was in front of him, was almost burnt to a crisp. However, there was still a weak vitality in the charred remains. Wang Daoyuan took out the azure dragon pearl and activated it with all his strength. Rays of emerald green light shone on Xueqi. The vitality in Xueqi's body rapidly increased, but her injuries were too serious. It was impossible for her to completely recover with the power of the azure dragon pearl alone. Soon, golden raindrops fell from the sky and poured into the crater of the volcano. Most of the raindrops fell on Xueqi's body. Receiving the nourishment of the gifts of heaven and earth, Xueqi's condition quickly improved. Her originally charred body quickly recovered. A heavenly tribulation made her already thin clothes even worse. As a gentleman, Wang Daoyuan would definitely not look at indecent things. After a dozen breaths, he felt that his qi and blood were a little unstable, and his nose was a little hot. After body refinement, His physical body had become stronger, but the impact of his qi and blood had also become stronger. He took out a forbidden spirit silk cloak and covered Xueqi. Then, he left the crater of the volcano. The gifts of heaven and earth were fatally attractive to all living creatures. There would definitely be shameless demonic beasts who wanted to take advantage of the situation. Wang Daoyuan also received some gifts from heaven and earth. He felt refreshed and his spiritual power was purer. Even his soul and body had some improvements. In the future, if he encountered an enemy in the core formation realm, he could rob them. After half a cup of tea's time, a sound similar to a phoenix's cry came from the north. It was just that the sound was really unpleasant, as if a phoenix had swallowed a gravel in its throat. It gave off an extremely fierce feeling. It seemed that the visitor was not friendly. Not long after, a fourth-rank low-grade bird that looked like a phoenix but had no tail feathers appeared 100 miles away. It was a white and black low-grade bird with a hint of black. From 100 miles away, Wang Daoyuan could already feel the pressure. The strange bird spoke in human language. The person transcending the tribulation is also a beauty with the phoenix bloodline. She can be my princess. Upon hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was displeased. A mongrel chicken dared to steal his woman. Even if he was a man, he wouldn't tolerate it. He opened his mouth and cursed. Where did this mongrel chicken come from? Get out of my way. The strange bird was also furious. It had the phoenix bloodline, but it was too thin and couldn't grow a crown or long feathers. It looked a bit like a pheasant. It usually liked to hear other demonic beasts call it a phoenix. Now that it was being scolded by a Zifu Realm Jr., how could it not be angry? It transformed into a young man wearing a black and white robe. There were no traces of a demonic beast on him. His transformation was quite successful. It rushed towards Wang Daoyuan and said angrily, "Where did this wild brat come from? How dare you look down on the Phoenix clan?" Wang Daoyuan transformed his spiritual power into spiritual fire and took out the vermilion bird fan. He said disdainfully, "Your tail isn't even as long as an old hen. How dare you call yourself a phoenix? Shameless." The strange bird waved its hand and shot out a few ice swords, which went straight for Wang Daoyuan. It seemed casual, but it was comparable to an attack from an early-stage golden core cultivator. It would be very difficult for an ordinary cultivator at the peak of the Zifu realm to receive it. However, Wang Daoyuan had the spiritual fire, so it was easy for him to deal with the ice attribute magic. The scarlet Yang True Fire was still burning in the lava lake below the volcano. He waved the vermilion bird fan and the golden flames in the lava lake rushed out and wrapped around the ice swords. Even if it was an attack from a fourth-stage demonic beast, it wouldn't be able to withstand the might of the spiritual fire. Moreover, the spiritual fire was backed by a fourth-stage mid-grade fire spiritual vein. The ice swords quickly melted. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Bald chicken, listen to my advice and get out of here. Otherwise, I'll make you into a roasted chicken." A fourth-stage low-grade roasted chicken is also a delicacy. The strange bird was unable to restrain its anger and continuously shot out ice attribute magic. However, a sea of fire with a radius of more than 15 kilometers had already appeared between Wang Daoyuan and it. The sea of fire was controlled by the vermilion bird fan, so the pressure on Wang Daoyuan's spirit wasn't too great. Even if he couldn't control it, it would only damage the vermilion bird fan. His spirit wouldn't be affected. With the lava of the volcano as its backing, the sea of fire was still expanding. The fire attribute countered the ice attribute to begin with. Against the endless spiritual fire, unless one's strength was absolutely overwhelming. Otherwise, any ice attribute magic would be useless. The strange bird transformed into its original form, a gigantic bird with a wingspan of more than 3,000 feet. It was covered in thick ice armor and wanted to forcefully fly through the sea of fire. Wang Daoyuan summoned all 4 of his destiny dermic weapons and even condensed the phantom of the Kirin seal. The strange bird could tell that his dermic weapons were extraordinary, and immediately retreated from the sea of fire. It circled around the edge of the sea of fire, trying to go around it and enter the volcano. Wang Daoyuan used the sea of fire to envelop the entire volcano. The strange bird wouldn't be able to come down until all its feathers were burned off. On the other hand, the golden raindrops weren't affected by the flames at all. They passed through the sea of fire without any damage. This strange bird was also a coward. After being in a stalemate for a quarter of an hour, it still didn't dare to charge into the sea of fire. The gift of heaven and earth was still continuing, and Xueqi's aura was also getting stronger. At this time, bird chirps and beast roars came from the north and east. Wang Daoyuan's heart sank. They were going to be surrounded by fourth-stage demonic beasts. At this time, Xueqi hadn't woken up. It was impossible to escape with Xueqi. With his speed, there was no way he could escape the pursuit of the fourth-stage strange bird. Besides, the gift of heaven and earth hadn't ended yet. He didn't dare to rashly take Xueqi away. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if the damage caused by the heavenly tribulation wasn't completely healed. He could only stay here and wait for her to wake up before letting her take him away. Chapter 500. At this moment, the golden clouds above the snow dragon volcano began to weaken rapidly. Wang Daoyuan suddenly heard Xueqi's voice. "Lure it in, let's kill this mixed feathered bald-tailed chicken." Even though the demon race had reached the 4th rank, their consciousness was still far inferior to that of humans. The strange bird did not notice the two's divine consciousness transmissions. The demon beasts and demon birds in the distance were about to arrive. There was not much time to set up a trap. He had to kill this guy as soon as possible and escape immediately. If he escaped now, he would be entangled by this strange bird. Wang Daoyuan pretended to be exhausted and put away all the magic artifacts except the vermilion bird fan. The entire sea of fire was also somewhat out of control. The strange bird looked at the golden clouds that were getting thinner and was also somewhat anxious. When the golden clouds dissipated and the person undergoing the tribulation recovered, it was not confident that it could deal with a golden core cultivator. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was somewhat exhausted, it became excited. A peak Zifu cultivator controlling 4 magic artifacts at the same time, and controlling such a large sea of fire, he should have been unable to hold on long ago. It wrapped itself in ice armor and charged into the sea of fire, attacking Wang Daoyuan. When the strange bird was about a mile away from Wang Daoyuan, Xueqi's body was wrapped in flames and transformed into a scarlet Yuan divine bird, soaring into the sky. The pressure of a divine beast swept out. The strange bird only had a little bit of the phoenix bloodline. How could it face the scarlet Yuan? It immediately changed direction and fled to the side. The vermilion bird fan in Wang Daoyuan's hand shone brightly, and the flames of the entire sea of fire surged towards the strange bird. The scarlet Yuan that Xueqi transformed into also had some ability to control flames. The golden sea of fire was brought up by her waves of flames, chasing after the strange bird. The strange bird knew that it was no match for her, and a burst of blood chi and vital essence appeared on its body, followed by a burst of speed. This was a secret escape technique that consumed vital essence and blood chi. Although Xueqi transformed into a scarlet Yuan, she was still a human cultivator. In terms of escaping, she could not compare to the strange bird, and was quickly left behind. She withdrew the flames on her body and summoned her scarlet Yuan flowing flame sword, slashing towards the strange bird. The flying sword was extremely fast. Carrying a large amount of golden flames, it slashed at the back of the strange bird. This strange bird was worthy of having the bloodline of the phoenix. Its physical body was not weak. The sword only left a deep wound on its back. The golden clouds formed by the tribulation clouds had yet to dissipate, and golden rain continued to fall. However, the figures of demonic beasts had already appeared in the north and east. The two of them did not dare to stay any longer. Xueqi withdrew her natal dermic artifact and an auspicious cloud appeared beneath her feet. She carried Wang Daoyuan and fled towards the southwest. Wang Daoyuan continued to wave his vermilion bird fan to extract spiritual energy from the crimson golden flames in the sky. After absorbing the spiritual energy into his body, he continuously sent it into the space of the spiritual pearl. Unfortunately, there were simply too many flames. He had only absorbed a small portion of it, and the auspicious cloud under his feet had already flown 100 miles away. Without his control, the remaining flames began to quickly extinguish. On the other hand, the flames in the lava lake below the volcano could still burn for a while if they were not disturbed. Wang Daoyuan looked behind him. 5 huge demonic beasts flew above the volcano. They did not chase after the two of them. Instead, they were fighting over the remaining golden raindrops. Soon, some demonic beasts also flew over on their clouds and fought with the demonic beasts. Wang Daoyuan heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at Xueqi's few remaining clothes, he coughed lightly and said, "Hallmaster, you should wear some clothes." Previously, when she transformed into the scarlet Yuan, Her body was burning with raging flames. After all, the soul-forbidding silk was only a second-tier material. How could it withstand the flames of a small divine ability? It had already turned into nothingness. The clothes on Xueqi's body were the remnants of the lightning tribulation. Xueqi smiled lightly. Didn't you even think about what the child would be called? Why are you embarrassed now? After she formed her core, a faint red flame mark appeared between her eyebrows. Her skin was faintly shining. The Scarlet One's charm had not been completely restrained. Coupled with this smile, it was even more charming. Her clothes were still untidy. Wang Daoyuan's blood was boiling. He only felt his nose heat up. He hurriedly cast a rejuvenation technique on his nose, took out a cloak, and put it on Xueqi. I'm a gentleman. Naturally, I won't peek. I'm afraid of being seen by despicable people. Xueqi mocked. A gentleman won't peek. But you're a lecher. As a body refinement cultivator, you can still have a nosebleed. That's all you've got. Wang Daoyuan was about to argue when an earth-shattering sound came from behind. The two of them looked back and saw the volcano behind them spewing out a large amount of lava. The lava also contained the corpses of several fourth-tier demonic beasts. He reckoned that these few demonic beasts were really angry and fought their way into the mouth of the volcano. The lava lake below the volcano had been burned by Wang Daoyuan with spiritual fire for half a year. This time, dealing with the strange bird had used up a large amount of spiritual power. It had become unstable. How could it withstand the battle of a group of fourth-tier demonic beasts? The volcano's body collapsed and the earth was shaking. Cracks spread out in all directions from the volcano. Lava also gushed out of the cracks. The demonic beasts nearby panicked and fled desperately. With such a huge commotion, it was very likely to trigger a huge beast tide. This place was still very far away from the Huiyan mountain range. The beast tide might not affect the Guiyan market. However, the relationship between the demons and half-demons in the north of the mountain was very subtle. This beast tide might cause a full-scale conflict between the demons and half-demons. The two of them did not care about these things for the time being. After flying for more than 2,000 miles, Xueqi put away the auspicious cloud and took out the Scarlet One flying boat. After all, it was too ostentatious to ride on an auspicious cloud. With the volcano erupting in the north, they did not have the leisure to sightsee. Driving the flying boat, they headed straight for the Guiyan market. The two of them returned to the Guiyan market as if nothing had happened and entered the underground division. Near the extreme cold ice plains, the demonic beasts fighting caused the volcano to erupt. What did it have to do with the two of them? Returning to Xueqi's cave residence, Wang Daoyuan continued to stay in the front yard of the cave residence, recalling the power of the heavenly tribulation. Especially the last minor divine ability tribulation, which contained the law of fire. He was a cultivator of the 5 elements and needed to comprehend the law of the 5 elements. If he could comprehend the law of fire, the other 4 laws would be a matter of course. Xueqi returned to the backyard and freshened up. Then, she walked out wearing thrifty clothes with her hair tied up in a high ponytail. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly fawned over her. Lord Hallmaster, this subordinate would like to ask about the law of fire. What do you think? Xueqi said with a smile. Of course, no problem. Come to my boudoir and we can discuss it slowly. Wang Daoyuan sternly refused. I'm a gentleman, how can I casually enter your boudoir? I think this place is quite good. We can discuss it here. Xueqi said mockingly. Didn't you say you wanted to come to my boudoir to protect me? I have no objections now. Do you dare to come? Of course, Wang Daoyuan did not dare. Before Xueqi formed her core, she needed to keep her primordial yin to increase the success rate of forming her core. It was fine to tease her. Now that she had formed her core, losing her primordial yin was not a big deal. But he was still in the core formation stage, so he had to endure it. There was no other way. Now, his offense and defense had changed. Not only did he not dare to tease Xueqi, but he also had to face Xueqi's teasing. Moreover, Xueqi had awakened a minor divine ability and her strength had increased greatly. She was far from being comparable to ordinary early-stage golden core cultivators. This bit of ability of his was simply not enough. There was no other way. In order to comprehend the law of fire, he could only compromise. After saying all kinds of nice things, Xueqi used her minor divine ability and condensed a small flame. She handed the flame to Wang Daoyuan and teased, "Lord Vice Hallmaster, the flame condensed by this divine ability is very dangerous. Do you want me to protect you?" Sure enough, sooner or later, you would have to pay for what you did. Just like how he teased Xueqi in the past, now he was being teased in the same way. Wang Daoyuan took the flame, took out a few jars of spiritual peach dew, and answered obediently, "Lord Hallmaster is very busy, but you still took time out of your busy schedule to help me comprehend the law of fire. I'm very grateful. Please accept these jars of wine as a token of my respect." Chapter 501. Xueqi took the wine jar with satisfaction and smiled. "You know your place. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to come to my room and ask me. I will answer with all my heart." Although Wang Daoyuan did not want to go over even if he was beaten to death, he still said that he would do it. Now that he was being suppressed by Xueqi, he had no choice but to lower his head. Xueqi carried the wine jar and arrogantly returned to the backyard. Wang Daoyuan continued to inject wood attribute spirit energy into the flame. His fire attribute spirit energy had the characteristics of the Scarlet Sun True Fire. If he used fire attribute spirit energy, the rootless flame would quickly be assimilated. Among the 5 elements, wood gave birth to fire. Using wood attribute spirit energy could also maintain the fire attribute spirit energy. Although it would not burn too vigorously, it would not change the characteristics of the rootless flame. He used his divine sense to probe the flame and carefully felt the fire laws. His own Scarlet Sun True Fire was a 3rd-level upper-grade spirit fire. The fire laws were not obvious, and the difficulty of comprehending them was higher. This flame was condensed from Xueqi's small divine ability. It was considered a 4th-level lower-grade rootless flame. The fire laws were more obvious, and the effect of comprehending them was better. He compared the rootless flame with the Scarlet Sun True Fire. In just half a year, he had a preliminary feeling of the fire laws. Fire was the most destructive and violent attribute among the 5 elements. Fire elemental spells all followed the same principle, which emphasized the instantaneous eruption of a huge amount of power. Of course, this was only the simplest comprehension. Core formation only required these simple comprehensions. Starting from the Jindan stage, the path of cultivation could not be separated from the comprehension of the laws. As one's cultivation increased, the requirement for comprehension would also be higher. The Jindan stage only had comprehension of the laws, and used it as a basis to modify techniques. At a higher level, one had to directly use the power of the laws. Everything was difficult at the beginning. After comprehending the fire laws, it would be much easier to comprehend other laws. He wanted to continue comprehending, but Jiang Jingming sent him a message saying that there was an important matter that he needed him to do personally. He could not reject it. After all, he had the position of Guiyan City Square's guardian. Before core formation, he still had to be a monk ringing the bell. If he were to neglect his duties, he would definitely be punished. After bidding farewell to Xueqi, he left the underground branch, took a big detour, and returned to the underworld sex station. After entering the encampment, Jiang Jingming immediately took out a beast skin book and said, "Steward Wang, this is the account book of all the matters I've dealt with over the years. Please take a look." Wang Daoyuan took the account book and flipped through it briefly. He then checked the treasury and found no problems. He nodded and said, "Elder Jiang is indeed a capable person. These few years, when handling the branch's affairs, there were no oversights. Is there anything important that requires me to deal with personally?" Jiang Jingming replied, "Have you heard of the major event that happened to the south of the Arctic icy plains?" Wang Daoyuan was naturally well aware of this, but he would never admit it verbally. With a puzzled expression, he asked, "What happened to the south of the Arctic icy plains? I've been cultivating in Huiyan Mountain all this time, so I didn't care about anything else." Jiang Jingming continued, "About half a year ago, the Snow Dragon volcano 20,000 miles to the south of the Arctic icy plains erupted and caused a violent earthquake. All the demons within 10,000 miles were affected, and a large beast tide was triggered. These few years, the demons and half-demons were at odds with each other, and the beast tide destroyed many half-demon tribes. This made the situation even more tense. At first, they were fighting in secret, but now they've started to act. Furthermore, The Jindan half-demons and fourth-rank demons are more restrained, so there hasn't been an all-out conflict yet. However, if this continues, an all-out war is unavoidable. Now, both sides want a rope in the underworld sect. This time, they want to meet with you and ask about your attitude. The time is 3 days later, and the location is at the Huiyan Pavilion in the center of the market. Wang Daoyuan nodded and didn't say anything, but his heart wasn't calm. The situation he was most worried about had happened. Once the two sides clashed, he would be cannon fodder. 3 days later, Wang Daoyuan brought Jiang Jingming and a foreign Zifu elder to the Huiyan Pavilion in the center of the market. The location of the meeting was on the 3rd floor of the Huiyan Pavilion. Wang Daoyuan led the 2 Violet Mansion elders to the 3rd floor and entered the main hall. A silver-haired Violet Palace Realm half-demon sat on the main seat with 2 early-stage Violet Palace Realm half-demons beside him. On the right was a peak Violet Palace Realm half-demon with black hair and red eyes. There were also 2 early-stage Violet Palace Realm half-demons beside him. The Huiyan Pavilion was the property of the Silver Fox tribe, so the one sitting on the main seat should be someone from the Silver Fox tribe. Wang Daoyuan brought the 2 to the left and sat down. Then, he cupped his hands and said, "May I know why the 2 of you have invited me here?" The silver-haired half-demon smiled. "I'm the Silver Fox tribe's Grand Elder, who you?" "I'm the representative of the half-demons." He then pointed at the red-eyed half-demon and said, "This is Dao Yu, Songyun. He's the representative of the demon race." For a Violet Palace realm meeting like this, the demon race would send their subordinate half-demons. After all, 3rd-rank demons couldn't take human form and couldn't speak the human language, so they couldn't discuss matters. As for 4th-rank demons, their status wasn't on the same level. Therefore, they sent their subordinate half-demons. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I'm Wang Daoyuan, the guardian of the Huiyan Pavilion." "Greetings, Dao Yu. Fellow Taoists, what do you want to discuss with me? Let's get straight to the point." Hu Yu smiled. "Dao Yu is indeed a straightforward person, so I'll be direct. The eruption of the snow dragon volcano caused the demon beasts to flee, and we half-demons suffered heavy losses. Since the demon race attacked first, we naturally can't just sit and wait for our deaths. Now that the conflict between the demon race and half-demons is inevitable, I wonder what the underworld sect's stance is?" Wang Daoyuan chuckled. "What does the matter between you half-demons and the demon race have to do with my underworld sect? My underworld sect only has a few shops in the southern part of the Huiyan Pavilion. Apart from that, we don't have any other property. We're just doing business here. If the 2 of you want to fight, why should we take sides?" Songyun finally spoke. It said that the eruption of the snow dragon volcano was caused by a human undergoing the Golden Core heavenly tribulation there. Since the culprit is the human race, don't think you can get away with it. Wang Daoyuan mocked him. "Songyun, what does Dao you think my underworld sect is? The highest commander of the human race? My underworld sect only occupies 1/3 of Zhao, which is just a drop in the ocean compared to the entire Beiyuan Xiuxian. How can we have the power to control all the human race's affairs? You also admitted that the human race caused the eruption of the snow dragon volcano, but that's just hearsay. There's no real evidence. Dao Yu wants to force my underworld sect to take sides with such baseless words. Isn't that too overbearing?" Hu Yu also asked, "Dao Yu means that the underworld sect doesn't care about the conflict between the half-demons and the demon race?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "My underworld sect's attitude towards the north of the mountain has always been to do business and not get involved in the affairs of the north. Naturally, we don't want the 2 of you to fall out, which will affect our business. If you insist on fighting, we won't get involved. We'll just switch to another person to do business with." Songyun didn't give up and asked aggressively, "This eruption was caused by the human race. The demon race also suffered heavy losses. Dao Yu wants to get away with it? You underestimate us too much." Wang Daoyuan also gave tit for tat. "The matter of the rogue cultivators has nothing to do with my underworld sect. However, the Snow God Palace in the northwest is one of the 4 top forces of the human race and can represent all the human race. If you have any opinions, you can go to the Snow God Palace and ask for an explanation." Songyun had nothing to say. They didn't dare to provoke the Snow God Palace. After all, those people were good at suppressing aquatic demons. If the demon race dared to go there, they would be killed. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan didn't want to get involved, Hu Yu was a little disappointed, I wonder if the underworld sect can continue to do business with us half-demons. Chapter 502. Wang Daoyuan thought for a moment and replied, "There's no problem with doing business. Our underworld sect is here to do business. It's just what can be sold and what can't. As a guardian, I can't make the decision and have to ask the sect master. I'll send a message to the sect master and report this matter. The sect master and the elders need time to discuss this matter. When they send a message, I'll inform your two families. How about it?" Huyu nodded, expressing that she had no objections. On the other hand, Song Yun wanted to say something, but Wang Daoyuan completely ignored him. This guy was a subordinate half-demon of the demon race. After staying with a group of demon beasts for a long time, his brain was not clear. When the two sides were looking for help, he still dared to be arrogant. Did he really think that the demon race was stronger than the human race? In ancient times, the human race was a strong race that could compare to the divine beasts. These mixed demon beasts were nothing. It was only after the formation of heaven-ending abyss that cultivation realms were limited. The human race did not live as long as the demon race, which was why they had the advantage. Wang Daoyuan was leaning towards helping the half-demons. After all, half-demons could marry humans. As long as the human race had the advantage in numbers, they could quickly assimilate the half-demons. Forget about the demon race. Only demon race level 4 and above could marry humans and give birth to half-demons. The human race could not assimilate the demon race. It was better to suppress them as much as possible. If the half-demons and demon race fought, as long as it did not implicate Shannon, it did not matter. He brought the two Zifu realm cultivators and left Wild returning to the underworld sect. Then, he sent a message to Luo Jiuyo, reporting the situation here. The next day, Luo Jiuyo replied. His attitude was similar to Wang Daoyuan's, pulling the line between the half-demons and the demon race. To the half-demons, all resources were sold. To the demon race, just selling some things was enough. Wang Daoyuan gave the two families the same conditions, only selling basic talismans and pills. This was already a little unfair to both sides. Anyone could eat pills, but it was difficult for demons to use talismans. However, basic talismans were not strong, they could still accept it. Wang Daoyuan told Huyu in private that he was willing to sell magic tools and some other things. However, it all depended on the half-demon's ability to deceive the demons. After dealing with this major issue, the remaining small matters would be left to Jiang Jingming to deal with. After staying in the station for several days, Wang Daoyuan left once more and returned to the underground branch. He entered Zhou Wan's cave dwelling and continued to comprehend other laws. With the law of fire as a reference, he also had the 5 elemental spiritual fire to study. It only took him about a year to comprehend the laws of earth, metal, water, and wood according to the order of the 5 elements. Now, he could form his gold core at any moment. However, core formation had an extremely high requirement for spiritual qi. At the very least, one had to have a spiritual vein of the 4th level or a heavenly material and earthly treasure. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to form his gold core if he didn't have enough spiritual qi. In particular, he had an acquired spirit body. Various ancient books only mentioned acquired spirit bodies, but did not give a detailed introduction. He also couldn't be sure what kind of trouble would occur during the core formation. In the entire Beiyuan Xiuxian, there were very few places suitable for him to form his gold core. Perfected Lei Yan also said that he should go to the Treasure Tripod Mountain to form his gold core. The Treasure Tripod Mountain had an upper-grade level 4 non-elemental spirit vein, and the spirit qi there was close to level 5. Naturally, forming his gold core would not be a problem. Now, he could not openly go to the Treasure Tripod Mountain. He was the guardian of the Guiyan market. If he left openly, he would be leaving his post without permission. If he informed Luo Jiuyo, that bastard would not agree. It was better to leave secretly. In the past year, the situation in Shanbei had become more chaotic. The conflict between demons and half-demons had intensified. However, wars in the cultivation world were especially long. From the conflict to the end of the war, it was not strange that it would take hundreds of years. In addition, the demons and half-demons were divided into groups and tribes, each occupying a piece of land. Shanbei was not as rich in spirit qi as the sky/mountain range. The demons and half-demons were very scattered and there was no unified upper echelon. Even if there was an all-out war, it would be between the neighboring demons and half-demons. However, in 100 to 200 years, there would be no clear winner. As long as the underworld sect did not take the initiative to interfere, the fire would not reach Shanbei within 100 years. However, he still had to make some preparations. Wang Daoyuan walked to the backyard of the cave abode and entered Zhou Wan's boudoir. The furnishings inside were simple. There was a carved wooden bed and a long offering table. There were flowers and spirit fruits on the table. In addition, there was a square table and a few chairs. Seeing him walk in, Zhou Wan smiled and asked, "Deputy Hallmaster, why did you dare to come in? Have you given up resisting?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "I would rather die than surrender. How can I give up resisting? Now that I have comprehended the 5 elemental laws, I am going to the treasure tripod mountain of the Divine Weapon Pavilion to form my core. Before I leave, there are some things I need to tell you." Then he took out a jade talisman and said, "This is a communication jade talisman to contact the underworld sect. Now, Jiang Jingming is taking care of the daily affairs for me. If he has something he can't solve, he will use the communication jade talisman to contact me. You can just reply for me." "Hallmaster, you are very smart. Isn't it a piece of cake to fool Jiang Jingming? Also, if something happens to the north of the mountain, it will affect the south of the mountain. Hallmaster, please take care of our clan." Zhou Wan took the communication jade talisman and said, "It's just a small matter. It won't be a problem. With your temperament, after forming your core, I'm afraid you will still go to the southern wasteland to look for the essence of earth, right?" Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "After forming my core, it will be very difficult for me to find time to go to the southern wasteland. I'd better take this opportunity to get the essence of earth back. With all 5 of my natal magic tools, I won't be afraid of anyone in the underworld sect." Zhou Wan was silent for a long time before she said, "You must come back alive." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Don't worry. After being teased by you for so long, I still haven't taken my revenge. I will definitely come back in one piece. When the time comes, I will let you know how powerful I am." After chatting with Zhou Wan for a long time, he disguised himself and left the Guiyan Market Square for the Qingli Market Square. Although there was a shop of the Divine Weapon Pavilion in the Guiyan Market Square, the scale was small and there was no flying boat directly to the treasured Cauldron Mountain. The person in charge of the Divine Weapon Pavilion was He Yuanqing's disciple and would not leak the information. It would be difficult for the underworld sect to detect them if they left the Qingli Market Square. The operation went smoothly. They successfully boarded the flying boat of the Divine Weapon Pavilion and left the territory of the underworld sect. 20 days later, they arrived at the treasured Cauldron Mountain. When they arrived at the door of their master's cave, the old man was overjoyed and quickly called Wang Daoyuan into the cave. He used his spiritual sense to examine Wang Daoyuan's cultivation and nodded. "You have really cultivated to the peak of the Violet Palace realm. It has only been 10 years since you left here. This cultivation speed has surpassed most of the heavenly spiritual roots. With your perception and my guidance, you will definitely not need 10 years to comprehend the 5 elemental laws. You are only 190 years old now. Even after 10 years, you will only be 200 years old. It is very difficult for a 200 years old golden core realm cultivator with a heavenly spiritual root." Wang Daoyuan condensed a ball of red sun primordial fire in his hand and used his spiritual sense to control the flame. Without increasing the input of spiritual power, the flame's height increased by half an inch. The Thunder Flame Taoist master was stunned. Then he asked in surprise, "You have comprehended the 5 elemental laws?" Wang Daoyuan nodded and replied, "I have comprehended the 5 elemental laws. My physical body and true essence are sufficient. I can form my core now." The Thunder Flame Taoist master was overjoyed. "I have really picked up a treasure. In 10 years, you have broken through to the Golden Core realm from the late stage of the Violet Palace realm. Even in the ancient times when spiritual qi was abundant, it was still a rare existence." After he finished speaking, he took out a storage bag and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. "This is what I have prepared for you. When the innate spiritual body forms the core, other than the 9 golden core lightning tribulations, there will also be the 5 elemental lightning tribulations. You have the acquired 5 elemental spiritual body, so I am not sure if there will be the 5 elemental lightning tribulations. However, since you have refined the 5 elemental spiritual fire, you have to be careful. Wang Daoyuan took the storage bag and opened it. He sighed inwardly. Master is so generous. Chapter 503. Wang Daoyuan opened the storage pouch and saw that it was full of magic tools. Among them, there were 4 low-grade 4th-rank magic tools and 3 mid-grade 4th-rank magic tools. These magic tools were all defensive magic tools made of high-quality materials. The 3 mid-grade 4th-rank magic tools were all shields. The smallest one was a round shield with a diameter of more than 3 meters. Master really loves his disciple. According to the strength of Xueqi's core formation Heavenly Tribulation, these things wouldn't be a problem at all to deal with the 9 core formation Heavenly Tribulations. Low-grade 4th-rank magic tools were enough to withstand the first 6 lightning bolts. With 3 mid-grade 4th-rank magic tools, it wouldn't be hard for them to withstand the last 3 lightning bolts. Below the magic tools was a bottle of low-grade 4th-rank medicinal pills with the words, Blood Essence Heaven Returning Pill, written on the bottle. Wang Daoyuan had only heard of this medicinal pill before. It was refined with the blood essence of 4th-rank demon beasts or vicious beasts as the main ingredient. It was also the only type of 4th-rank healing medicinal pill that could be refined in large quantities. After consuming it, it would only take a quarter of an hour to completely refine it. It was very suitable for tribulation transcendence. However, Wang Daoyuan had the Azure Dragon Pearl, so this medicinal pill would only have a supplementary effect. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Many thanks, Master. But isn't this a bit too much? There were 9 core formation heavenly tribulations, and I could withstand the first 6 with magic." Unexpectedly, Master Lei Yen took out a large earth-yellow seal and said, "There's no harm in being prepared. Who knows whether or not you'll encounter the 5 elements tribulation. This is a thick earth seal that I refined by imitating the Kirin seal. If you really do encounter the 5 elements tribulation, ordinary magic tools won't be able to help. This thing can temporarily replace the Kirin seal." This thick earth seal was low-grade 4th rank. Its main ingredient was thick earth mystic crystal, and its tool pattern was also quite similar to the Kirin seal. However, it wasn't a life-bound magic tool and couldn't be integrated into the 5 elements heaven-suppressing seal. If used to unleash the Kirin seal's accompanying magic, the power it could unleash was definitely higher than that of mid-grade 4th-rank magic tools. Seeing his master take out another magic tool, Wang Daoyuan was a bit embarrassed. He had thought of all the things he hadn't thought of. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Master, this is enough. My body is strong, and I have refined the 5 elemental spiritual fire. If there is really a 5 elemental tribulation, I can withstand it." Taoist Lei Yen smiled. "These are all the works I made when I was studying the art of refining. They're just worldly possessions, not worth mentioning. You already have 4 intrinsic Dharma artifacts. It's impossible for you to comprehend the charm of the 5 elements divine beasts in a short period of time. However, these 4 magic tools had to be refined to at least the upper grade of the 3rd rank. Otherwise, you won't be of any help when dealing with the heavenly tribulation." Wang Daoyuan had made preparations long ago. The Vermilion Bird Fan and Azure Dragon Bead were both high-grade rank 3 items right after they were refined. When his cultivation had just reached the late stage of the Violet Palace realm, the White Tiger Blade had also been forged into a 3rd-tier high-grade weapon. As for the Black Tortoise Shield, when it was first refined, it was only a mid-grade Tier 3 magic artifact, but after many years of nurturing, it had become a high-grade Tier 3 magic artifact not long ago. With 4 upper-grade Tier 3 natal Dharma artifacts, the power of the 5 elements Devil Vanquishing Seal was greater than the all-out attack of an ordinary early-stage Golden Core cultivator. By the time he underwent the tribulation, he would have already formed his Golden Core. When he used the 5 elements Devil Vanquishing Seal at that time, its power would definitely surpass the all-out attack of an ordinary mid-stage Golden Core cultivator. The heavenly tribulation was a test for cultivators, and they couldn't just focus on killing themselves. The strongest attack would at most have the power of a mid-stage Golden Core cultivator. Using the 5 elements Devil Vanquishing Seal would definitely be able to withstand it. Of course, there was only one chance and it couldn't be used in advance. Wang Daoyuan replied, "Master, don't worry. All 4 of my natal Dharma artifacts have already reached the upper grade of the 3rd rank." Perfected Thunderflame took out a jade slip and said, "That's good. This is my insight on forming my Golden Core. Take a look." Don't move around in my cave abode. I'll go ask the Pavilion Master for permission to borrow the Heavenly Tribulation Valley of the Divine Weapon Pavilion." With that, he left the cave abode. Wang Daoyuan also took advantage of this time to claim ownership of the newly obtained Dharma artifacts. Half a day later, perfected Thunderflame returned to the cave abode with a smile. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, Master. Seeing how happy you are, does the Pavilion Master agree to let me borrow the Heavenly Tribulation Valley?" Perfected Thunderflame smiled. "That's right. My opponents weren't around today. I mentioned this to the Pavilion Master and he agreed. I even went to the Heavenly Tribulation Valley to clean it up. If you're ready, you can start forming your golden core at any time." Wang Daoyuan replied, "Thank you, Master. I'm ready and can form my golden core now." Perfected Thunderflame nodded. "All right, follow me." Bringing Wang Daoyuan with him, Perfected Thunderflame left the Treasured Cauldron Mountain and headed west. 100 li west of the Treasured Cauldron Mountain was a valley that spanned more than 50 li from north to south and 10 li from east to west. This mountain was connected to the spirit vein of the Treasured Cauldron Mountain, and the concentration of spirit chi was also at the upper grade of the 4th rank. This was the Heavenly Tribulation Valley of the Divine Weapon Pavilion that was specially used for cultivators to break through their tribulations. Because formations would cause the Heavenly Tribulation to intensify, there were no formations in the Heavenly Tribulation Valley. Usually, there were only a few Zifu realm cultivators standing guard here. The concentration of spirit chi here made it a good place for cultivation. Now that they heard that someone was undergoing a tribulation, the guards all gathered outside the valley to watch the show. Perfected Thunderflame pointed at a stone altar in the middle of the valley. "That stone altar is the best place to undergo the tribulation. You can go there." Wang Daoyuan nodded and flew towards the stone altar on his sword. After landing, he sat cross-legged in the middle of the stone altar. Following the methods recorded in the various core formation insights, he began to condense the true essence in his body. Ever since the foundation establishment stage, cultivators had been constantly increasing the quantity and quality of their liquefied true essence. Now, it was time to take another step forward. Circulating the 5-spirit immortal transformation art, the liquefied true essence in his dantian condensed and compressed, forming a colorless, transparent water ball that was about 5 inches in diameter. At the same time, it continuously absorbed spirit chi from the outside world, refining it into the 5 elements and condensing it into true essence, fusing it into the transparent water ball and compressing it. The concentration of spirit chi here was enough for him to absorb for the time being. No spirit chi whirlpool appeared. Only a weak wind of spirit chi formed around him. The liquefied true essence kept increasing and compressing. The entire transparent water ball grew very slowly. Almost no changes could be seen. 3 months later, the transparent water ball had already reached 3 feet in diameter. No matter how much Wang Daoyuan compressed it, it was useless. His dantian could no longer hold any more true essence. Next, he extracted the scarlet essence of chi and blood from his body, fusing it into the transparent water ball. At this time, he felt his body was empty. The strength of his body was quickly disappearing. More essence of chi and blood poured out from his organs, replenishing what was consumed. A month later, there wasn't much essence of chi and blood left in his body. What little was left was used to maintain his life. He felt his limbs were weak, as if his body was hollowed out. The water ball didn't grow bigger, only turning blood red. Then, he continued to circulate his martial arts, compressing the water ball. This time, the water ball could continue to compress. His body could also continue to absorb spirit chi and condense true essence. A month later, the transparent water ball had already solidified, like a blood-red crystal, shining with a bright light. The blood-red crystal ball was only 1 inch in diameter. This was the core of the golden core. Then, a spirit chi vortex with a diameter of about 100 feet appeared in the Heaven's Tribulation Valley, absorbing spirit chi from all directions and pouring it into Wang Daoyuan's body. This spirit chi was refined, turning into 5-colored spirit chi. Then, the 5-colored spirit chi condensed into a white jade-like solid, wrapping around the core. Another month passed. A white jade-like ball with a diameter of 9 inches appeared in his dantian. This was the embryonic form of the golden core. After the test of the thunder tribulation and the gift of heaven and earth, it could be called a true golden core. At this time, more than 2,000 feet in the air, an illusion that was exactly the same as his golden core appeared. In a moment, the illusion landed in front of Wang Daoyuan. He opened his mouth and swallowed the illusion of the golden core into his stomach, fusing with the embryonic form of the golden core. Then, his physical strength quickly recovered. After a few breaths, his physical strength was several times stronger than before. His spirit chi transformed into the golden core, and his strength soared. If he encountered the jade scale flood dragon now, there was no need to fight at all, he could kill it with a slap. At this time, he knew what it meant by, after swallowing a golden core, I knew that my fate was not in the hands of heaven. Chapter 504. Perfected Thunderflame, who was standing in the distance, revealed a gratified expression. The limit of a golden core was 9 inches and 9 centimeters, but that was only recorded in the ancient books. There was no mention of anyone reaching this limit. There were specific records of those who exceeded 9 inches. However, the number of cultivators in the Divine Weapon Pavilion could be counted on one hand. A 9-inch golden core had not appeared for at least 30,000 years. Now that the spirit chi was declining, high-grade spiritual objects were rare. No matter how talented a cultivator was, they could not fully utilize it. At the core formation stage, those who had a golden core of more than 5 inches were all extremely talented cultivators. At this moment, a dark cloud appeared in the sky above Heaven Tribulation Valley. With Wang Daoyuan as the center, a suppressive aura appeared in a 50-mile radius. The other cultivators retreated to the 50-mile radius. The tribulation cloud quickly grew to a diameter of 50 miles. The golden core tribulation cloud of a cultivator with a heaven spirit root was at most this size. However, the tribulation cloud showed no signs of stopping. It was still expanding rapidly. It finally grew to a diameter of 100 miles before stopping. Wang Daoyuan felt a chill in his heart. His heroic spirit of my life is not in the hands of the heavens, dissipated by more than half. Xueqi's tribulation cloud was only 30 miles in diameter, but it was already extremely powerful. This 100-mile tribulation cloud was going to take his life. Perfected Thunderflame's expression also turned serious. He was worried that the magic weapons he gave were not enough. But now that the tribulation had descended, no one could interfere. At this moment, a white crane flew out from the Treasure Cauldron Mountain and landed beside Perfected Thunderflame. On the back of the crane was a middle-aged cultivator in a white robe. He asked, "Thunderflame, your disciple's talent is a little scary. Is it possible to pull him into the Divine Weapon Pavilion?" Venerable Lei Yen sighed and said, "Pavilion Master, it's not like you don't know the rules of our Divine Weapon Pavilion. He is an elder of the underworld sect. If we take him in, we will be breaking the rules. I don't want to care about this now. This tribulation is too powerful. I am worried that Daoyuan will not be able to pass this stage." This white-robed cultivator was the Pavilion Master of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, Perfected Cloud Crane. Perfected Cloud Crane sighed and said, "Unfortunately, we acted too late. If we could have taken him in before he opened his purple mansion, things would not have been so troublesome now. Your disciple's luck is extremely strong. He won't fail the Golden Core Tribulation. You don't have to worry." At the center of the tribulation cloud, a blue-white lightning bolt as thick as a child's arm struck down. Wang Daoyuan took out a low-grade Tier 4 shield and easily blocked this lightning tribulation. The next 2 blue and white lightning tribulations quickly descended, and the 4th-tier low-grade shield was undamaged. Not only did he not show any joy, his mood became even heavier. The power of these 3 tribulations was no different from Xueqi's tribulation. The tribulation clouds were several times larger, so the power of the lightning tribulation would definitely be greater. The first 3 lightning tribulations didn't change, which was, the rat pulling the shovel, the big head is at the back. Wang Daoyuan felt a subtle force of destruction and vitality enter his meridians through the shield and finally merge with the embryonic gene Dan in his dantian. After absorbing this special energy, there was no obvious change in the embryonic form of the golden core. This kind of power was called the power of the heavenly tribulation. It could refine the embryonic form of the golden core into a real golden core. Soon, the second wave of 3 lightning tribulations descended, destroying 3 low-grade Tier 4 magic tools. This wave of the power of the heavenly tribulation was much stronger. After the golden core absorbed it, many golden spots appeared. After a quarter of an hour, the third wave of the heavenly tribulation descended. The 4th-tier low-grade magic tools couldn't completely block the purple lightning tribulation. Wang Daoyuan directly took out a 4th-tier mid-grade shield to block the lightning tribulation. The 7th lightning tribulation heavily damaged a 4th-tier mid-grade shield, but Wang Daoyuan himself was unharmed. The 8th lightning tribulation descended, and he took out a 4th-tier mid-grade shield again. This shield was directly shattered. This lightning tribulation still had about 1/10 of its power left, and it hit him. However, this remaining power couldn't be considered very strong. Wang Daoyuan also felt that his body was a little numb, and his internal organs were faintly aching. However, he didn't suffer too much damage. The 9th lightning tribulation descended once again. Wang Daoyuan used the remaining 4th-tier low-grade magic tool, the 4th-tier mid-grade magic tool, and the previously damaged 4th-tier mid-grade magic tool to block it. A 3-meter purple lightning tribulation descended. This power was far stronger than Xueqi's 9th heavenly tribulation. The 3 magic tools resisted for a moment before they were all shattered. Nearly 30% of the power still hit him. This 30% power was also very strong. He continuously spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. The tribulation cloud in the sky didn't dissipate, nor did it turn into a golden cloud. It didn't even shrink in size. It just became a little thinner. At least 3/4 of its power hadn't been released. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly took a blood essence sky-restoring pill and activated the Azure Dragon Pearl to heal his internal injuries. After a quarter of an hour, his injuries were 70 to 80% healed. After the 9th golden core lightning tribulation, the golden core in his body turned from white jade to gold. The golden core now was the real golden core. At this moment, a silver lightning bolt as thick as a bucket fell from the tribulation cloud. In terms of power, it was far inferior to the 9th golden core lightning tribulation. However, this silver lightning carried a murderous aura. If it hit him, it would definitely cause a lot of damage. Wang Daoyuan no longer defended passively. He took out the white tiger blade and used the sword shadow divine light technique. 10 sword shadows appeared and slashed at the silver lightning along with the white tiger blade. This silver lightning seemed to be too weak. It was actually broken by Wang Daoyuan's attack. Then, the black, green, red, and yellow lightning bolts descended one after another. Wang Daoyuan also used magic tools and spells to break them. These 5 lightning bolts belong to the 5 elements. It should be the 5 elements tribulation. However, it was surprisingly weak. However, the tribulation cloud in the sky didn't weaken significantly. It was obvious that the lightning tribulation wasn't that simple. After the 5 lightning bolts were broken, the tribulation cloud rolled and formed 5 vortexes. Wang Daoyuan summoned his 4 natal magic tools and the thick earth seal to deal with the changes in the lightning tribulation at any time. After a while, the phantom of a divine beast descended from each of the 5 vortexes. Wang Daoyuan was very familiar with these 5 divine beasts. His purple mansion phenomenon was exactly these 5. Outside the range of the tribulation cloud, perfected Lei Yen looked worried. Generally, cultivators with spiritual bodies would only face one tribulation of the 5 elements tribulation. The simplest one was a lightning bolt of the 5 elements. The phantom of a divine beast was already the most difficult 5 elements tribulation. Even for spirit body cultivators, it was extremely difficult for them to defeat divine beasts of the same level. The 5 divine beasts that appeared all had the strength of an inferior grade tier 4. Wang Daoyuan wanted to deal with 5 divine beasts of the same level alone. Moreover, these divine beast phantoms weren't just for show. Each divine beast had an extremely strong charm. The divine beast phantoms were only about 10 feet long. They were still absorbing the power of the lightning tribulation from the tribulation cloud to strengthen themselves. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to delay any longer. The remaining power of the tribulation cloud was still very strong. If he let the divine beast phantoms continue to grow, he would soon be powerless to resist. Wang Daoyuan's strongest Dharma artifact was undoubtedly the white tiger blade. The white tiger blade was of the metal element. Metal restrained wood. Killing the Azure Dragon Phantom first would have the highest success rate. He activated the Azure Dragon Pearl, the Vermilion Bird Fan, and the Black Tortoise Shield to reveal their Dharma artifacts. The thick earth seal didn't have its Dharma artifact true form, so he personally went to battle. The 4 Dharma artifacts held back the divine beasts of the same element. He held the white tiger blade tightly with both hands. The Dharma artifact true form resonated with the Purple Mansion phenomenon. Then, the Dharma artifact true form merged with the white tiger blade again. The white tiger sword intent also released a murderous aura and merged with the white tiger blade. He used the cloud mist escape and rushed toward the azure dragon phantom. This was the strongest killing move he could use in an instant. His figure instantly appeared in front of the azure dragon. The white tiger blade and 10 sword shadows pierced the azure dragon's mouth at the same time. The sword light flashed, and the azure dragon phantom collapsed. The 2 claws of the azure dragon had also scratched his chest, leaving behind 10 bone-deep wounds. 10 miles ahead, a new azure dragon phantom appeared, but it was much dimmer. Where the azure dragon phantom collapsed, it left behind pure wood attribute spirit chi. Chapter 505. Wang Daoyuan absorbed all the spirit chi left behind by the azure dragon into his body. His life spiritual fire quickly refined the wood-type spirit chi to replenish his spirit chi. In addition to the power of the heavenly tribulation, there was also a trace of the azure dragon's charm in the wood-type spirit chi. He drew the azure dragon's charm into his mind and merged it with the azure dragon avatar. He immediately felt that he had made great progress in his understanding of the azure dragon's charm. Then, he used his divine consciousness to control the azure dragon pearl's Dharma artifact to heal the 10 wounds on Gao's chest. A dark green light shone on the wound, but the wound only stopped bleeding. It did not show any signs of healing. He used his divine consciousness to check the wounds and found that there was a destructive force on the wounds that prevented them from healing. If he did not get rid of this destructive force, he would not be able to recover. However, this destructive force was quite difficult to deal with. It would take a long time to get rid of it with his life force. Now that he was at the critical moment of transcending the tribulation, he did not have the time to care about this. It was enough to stop the bleeding and prevent the wounds from worsening. Wang Daoyuan used his divine consciousness to check the other 4 divine beast phantoms. He found that after the azure dragon was defeated, the speed of their growth slowed down. This time, Wang Daoyuan was interested. Quickly killing a divine beast could restore his spirit chi, refine his golden core, and enhance his understanding of the divine beast's charm. Apart from being injured and unable to recover, it was the perfect target to take advantage of. It would take at least a few years to comprehend the divine beast's charm with the help of a natal Dharma artifact. Now that there was a shortcut, he could not let it go. It did not matter if he was injured. After transcending the 5-element tribulation, he would be rewarded by heaven and earth. As long as he was not completely dead, he would be able to recover. The azure dragon phantom had just reformed. It seemed that its strength was less than half of before. If he wanted to take advantage of it, he had to catch one and make it bald. He used the cloud escape again and fled toward the azure dragon. This time it did not take him much effort. The 10 sword phantoms killed the azure dragon. Unfortunately, there was too little spirit chi left this time. It was too weak for him to comprehend the charm and refine his golden core. The azure dragon appeared again, but it was weaker than the last time. Continuing to kill it would not have much effect. It was better to keep it alive first and let it absorb more tribulation cloud's power. This time, Wang Daoyuan's target was the vermilion bird. Kirin and Black Tortoise had strong defense, while White Tiger's attack power was too strong. Using the water dragon technique, a 5,000 to 6,000 feet long black dragon appeared. Wang Daoyuan transformed the black dragon into a water dragon armor to protect himself. He controlled the original form of the Black Tortoise shield and cast the spell that came with it. Black Tortoise suppresses the sea. This spell was obtained from Flying Sand Wanderer and was created by Venerable Fu Mo in his later years. The Black Tortoise had a strong suppressive force to begin with, while Kirin didn't have much of a suppressive force. The Kirin seal's suppressive power mainly relied on the earth element's thickness. The power of the heavenly tribulation vermilion bird was clearly affected by this suppressive force. Wang Daoyuan immediately unleashed the water dragon prison to trap the vermilion bird. The power of the heavenly tribulation vermilion bird was comparable to that of an early-stage golden core cultivator, and it possessed the aura of a mythological beast. His half-baked water dragon prison couldn't suppress it at all. The vermilion bird instantly tore the water dragon prison apart, and Wang Daoyuan's white tiger blade and 10 sword shadows also arrived in front of it. The vermilion bird had no time to dodge, and could only spit out a mouthful of flames at Wang Daoyuan. Although his water dragon technique was half-baked, His spiritual energy was strong enough to withstand the flames unscathed. After absorbing the spiritual energy left by the vermilion bird, he chose White Tiger as his next target. After the azure dragon and vermilion bird reappeared, they were still not strong enough, so it was fine to ignore them for a short time. Borrowing the power of the 3 life-bound magic artifacts, he killed White Tiger once. This guy's attack power was too strong. If he let it grow, it wouldn't be long before it could kill him. With the black tortoise and vermilion bird's shadows entangled White Tiger, Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to get close. Otherwise, if he were to be attacked by White Tiger head-on, his life would be in danger. He wielded the sky-cleaving sword and controlled the giant White Tiger blade to attack the White Tiger Heavenly Tribulation. White Tiger was fierce. It endured the attacks of the black tortoise and vermilion bird shadows and desperately pounced on Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used the smoke escape to dodge, but his left shoulder blade was still hit by a claw. If his bones weren't hard enough, his heart would have been dug out. White Tiger was also killed by the pursuing White Tiger blade and turned into metal elemental spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan continued to kill the 5 divine beasts, and his injuries became more and more serious. After 5 minutes, Wang Daoyuan's body had more than 50 wounds that couldn't be healed. Affected by his injuries, he could only use 50 to 60% of his strength. However, the strength of the 5 divine beasts was suppressed to the peak of the Violet Palace realm. He continued to kill the divine beasts to obtain their divine essence. Now, he had learned the basics of the divine beast's divine essence. Without the heavenly tribulation, he would have to spend at least 10 years to reach this step. His golden core was constantly being tempered by the power of the heavenly tribulation, and now there was a purple-gold color. The heavenly tribulation clouds were thinned by more than 30% because of him. The divine beasts no longer had the power to resist. They were completely tools for him to refine his golden core and comprehend the divine essence. If he continued to waste time like this, he would definitely succeed. At this moment, the heavenly tribulation clouds rolled violently as if they were angry. Then, 5 pillars of light appeared and enveloped the 5 divine beasts. The divine beast's strength increased rapidly, and they instantly recovered to the level of the low-grade 4th stage. Wang Daoyuan's heart sank. He was in danger. Even if he exposed the 5-element spiritual fire, it would be difficult for him to survive. However, he still had to take the risk. With his master's protection, exposing the spiritual fire might not necessarily kill him. Just as he was about to use the 5-element spiritual fire, the 5 divine beasts approached each other and finally merged into one. The 5 divine beasts merged into one and turned into a strange divine beast. This fellow's body was no different from a true dragon's. It was covered in bright yellow scales, had 4 claws and 5 toes, and a pair of forked dragon horns on its head. The strange thing was that this divine beast had a pair of 5-colored wings. Wang Daoyuan quickly realized what this was. It was the legendary true dragon of the dragon clan, Yinglong. Legend had it that the phoenix was also a descendant of Yinglong and had inherited his 5-colored wings. One of Yinglong's sons, Kenma, was also the ancestor of all beasts. He was also a dragon and belonged to the Scaly clan, so he was related to all the divine beasts of the 5 elements. Yinglong raised its head and roared. Wang Daoyuan felt his soul tremble. Then, Yinglong stared at him with its pair of dragon eyes. Outside the heavenly tribulation, Perfected Lei Yen looked solemn and asked Perfected Yunhe beside him, "Sect Master, have you heard of this heavenly tribulation?" Perfected Yunhe shook his head and said nothing. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to be careless and immediately formed the 5 elements demon suppression seal. Yinglong pounced on him. Dodging the heavenly tribulation was only delaying it. It would be more passive if it was caught. The 5 elements demon suppression seal was formed and smashed towards Yinglong. Moments later, Yinglong collided with the 5 elements demon suppression seal. Yinglong's strength was comparable to a mid-Aurus core cultivator and was very close to a late Aurus core cultivator. If Wang Daoyuan was not injured, the 5 elements demon suppression seal would be able to withstand this attack. However, he was severely injured and could only use half of his strength. The 5 elements demon suppression seal collapsed instantly, and all 4 of his natal Dharma artifacts were badly damaged. Wang Daoyuan took out the earthen seal and smashed it towards Yinglong. Soon, the earthen seal was also shattered by Yinglong. Wang Daoyuan had nowhere to run. He could only try his best to activate the 5-element spiritual fire and his golden core to protect his body. He activated the Purple Mansion phenomenon to protect his Purple Mansion and save his life. As the winged dragon descended, Wang Daoyuan's bones emitted a series of cracking sounds. Then, he lost consciousness and collapsed to the ground. Outside the range of the heavenly tribulation, Wang Daoyuan shouted, "Second brother!" Then, he was about to rush over. He had been guarding the Divine Weapon Pavilion's property. When he heard that Wang Daoyuan had formed his core, he rushed back. Perfected Lei Yan grabbed him and pointed at the heavenly tribulation clouds in the sky. The heavenly tribulation clouds haven't dispersed. Daoyuan is still alive. At that moment, Yinglong's heavenly tribulation dissipated, and bright yellow spiritual energy spread throughout Wang Daoyuan's body. The thick black heavenly tribulation clouds in the sky began to turn from black to gold. Chapter 506. Wang Daoyuan had successfully transcended the tribulation, signifying the arrival of the gift of heaven and earth. Thunderflame Taoist Master laughed heartily while Wang Daoyuan, who still had an anxious look on his face, laughed as well. Moments later, the tribulation cloud turned completely golden. Then, the gift of heaven and earth descended. This time, it wasn't golden raindrops that fell, but golden petals. The petals drifted towards Wang Daoyuan after falling from the golden cloud. They landed on his body and disappeared. Wang Daoyuan's vitality was rapidly recovering and his broken bones were regenerating. Wang Daoyuan asked Thunderflame Taoist Master, "Master, why is my second brother's gift of heaven and earth different from the ones I've seen before?" Thunderflame Taoist Master stroked his beard and smiled. "This is called a deluge of heavenly flowers. The person transcending the tribulation is extremely lucky. According to the records of the sect, this has only happened 3 times in the tens of thousands of years of Beiyuan's history. All 3 of them were famous experts of their time. Many geniuses of the same era paled in comparison to them." Cloud Crane Taoist Master was also surprised. He didn't expect such a rare sight to appear in front of him. After half a cup of tea's time, Wang Daoyuan's injuries were completely healed and he regained consciousness. He used his consciousness to check his body and was relieved to find that his body had recovered. The golden petals turned into golden energy after entering his body. There was no need for him to refine them as they fused into his body and flowed through his meridians and blood. The golden energy contained some pure spiritual energy, but it wasn't completely spiritual energy. It didn't have much effect on his cultivation, but it had a great impact on his body and foundation. Under the nourishment of the golden energy, his physical body was rapidly strengthening. Moreover, it was strengthening from the inside out. However, there was a limit to the body and it couldn't absorb the golden energy without limit. After half a quarter of an hour, his body had reached its limit and couldn't be strengthened any further. He drew the golden energy into his sea of consciousness. His Purple Mansion phenomenon and soul were desperately absorbing it. After the golden energy was absorbed by his soul, it fused into the soul origin between his eyebrows. The soul origin was extremely mysterious and no one knew its structure. It was only known that it was related to a person's perception and talent. As long as one's origin wasn't damaged, no matter how severe the damage to one's soul was, there was still a chance for it to recover. Once one's origin was damaged, even if one had a heavenly treasure, it would be useless. After absorbing the golden energy, the Violet Palace manifestation didn't change at all. Another 15 minutes passed, and his divine soul and Violet Palace avatar stopped absorbing the golden energy. It had been more than 15 minutes since the tribulation cloud turned into a golden cloud. Normally, the gifts of heaven and earth would not last more than 15 minutes. However, the golden cloud in the sky was still very large, with a diameter of over 50 miles. It was still far from dissipating. Wang Daoyuan sent the golden energy into the spirit pearl space to see if it was effective. Unexpectedly, as soon as the spiritual bead came into contact with the golden energy, it began to devour it. After he formed his gold core, there were no obvious changes in the space of his spiritual pearl. Now that the golden energy had entered, the 5 spirit veins in the spiritual pearl space began to grow rapidly. It didn't take long for the 5 spirit veins to grow to lower tier 4. The many spiritual plants in the space were also desperately absorbing the golden energy, especially the peach tree saplings and the blood-fire hibiscus. After the scarlet-feathered crow lost its intrinsic feather, it had been in a bad state. Now that it encountered the golden energy, it instantly became active and absorbed it with all its might. Soon, a reddish-gold feather appeared where the natal feather had been at the end of the tail. 15 minutes later, the speed at which the spiritual pearl space absorbed the golden energy slowed down significantly. The golden cloud in the sky was still about 40 miles in diameter. After a large number of golden petals landed on Wang Daoyuan, they couldn't be absorbed, and the golden energy dissipated. Wang Daoyuan stood up and bowed to his master. Master, there are too many gifts of heaven and earth. I can't absorb all of them. You should absorb some as well. Senior brothers and martial nephews, come as well. Lei Yan didn't decline. He rode on the auspicious cloud and brought Wang Daoyin into the heavenly tribulation valley. A portion of the golden petals landed on the two of them. Wang Daoyin had just broken through to the mid-stage Violet Palace realm, and his body had a lot of room for growth. Now that he was nourished by the golden energy, his qi and blood were clearly strengthened. On the other hand, Lei Yan was already about 940 years old, and his cultivation had long reached the peak of the golden core realm. If he didn't break through to the half-step Yuanying realm, his body wouldn't be able to make any significant progress. However, Wang Daoyuan could still feel that his blood was rapidly increasing. Soon, several Violet Palace realm cultivators of Lei Yan's lineage also arrived at the heavenly tribulation valley. Zhao Liang and eighth sister's son, Wang Mingting, had already reached the peak of the foundation establishment realm. He also arrived at the heavenly tribulation valley. Yunhe asked Wang Daoyuan, "Martial nephew Daoyuan, I have a disciple who was heavily injured many years ago when he was patrolling the southern wasteland. His Aurus core was shattered, and it will be difficult for him to make any further progress in his cultivation. The gifts of heaven and earth after the golden core lightning tribulation have an extremely strong healing effect on all injuries. Martial nephew's extravagant gifts of heaven and earth have an even better healing effect. I want that disciple to absorb some of the gifts of heaven and earth. If there's anything you want, just say the word." The pavilion master of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, a half-step Yuanying realm cultivator, and one of the top experts in the world, personally made a request. Wang Daoyuan naturally could not refuse. Moreover, he was forming his Aurus core in someone else's territory. He cupped his fists and said, "Martial uncle, you're too serious. I borrowed the spirit vein of the Divine Weapon Pavilion to form my Aurus core, and I already owe the Divine Weapon Pavilion a favor. Since that senior brother needs the gifts of heaven and earth, feel free to come." Yunhe smiled and said, "Thank you, martial nephew." After a while, an early golden core cultivator with an unstable aura arrived at the heavenly tribulation valley on an auspicious cloud. He greeted Wang Daoyuan and expressed his gratitude. Then, he walked into the heavenly tribulation valley and absorbed the golden energy. This gifts of heaven and earth lasted for more than an hour before it completely ended. Everyone present more or less gained some benefits. Even the spirit vein of the heavenly tribulation valley absorbed some of the golden energy, and the concentration of spirit qi increased slightly. The golden cloud dispersed, and everyone cupped their fists and thanked Wang Daoyuan before returning to the treasured cauldron mountain. Wang Daoyuan also rode on an auspicious cloud and tried to fly. After returning to the treasured cauldron mountain, Lei Yan returned to his cave abode and meditated to cultivate. After a quarter of an hour, Wang Daoyuan suddenly felt that the spirit qi on his master's body had increased significantly. Then, a spirit qi vortex with a diameter of 100 feet appeared above the cave abode. At the bottom of the treasured cauldron valley, the concentration of spirit qi had reached the peak of level 5. It was extremely difficult to cause such a large spirit qi vortex. Yunhe quickly arrived outside the cave abode. Wang Daoyuan cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, martial uncle. May I ask what's wrong with my master?" Yunhe smiled and said, "Senior brother Lei Yan is about to break through to the half-step Yuanying. More than 400 years ago, he suffered a serious internal injury and his foundation was damaged. Otherwise, with his talent, he wouldn't have been stuck at the peak of golden core for hundreds of years. After receiving your gifts of heaven and earth this time, his old injuries have probably healed. Coupled with hundreds of years of accumulation, breaking through to the half-step Yuanying is just around the corner." Half a month later, a powerful aura spread out from the cave abode. A purplish gold golden core appeared out of thin air and fell into the cave abode. A purplish gold golden core was enough to form a nascent soul. If one could break through to the half-step Yuanying, The next step would be to shatter the golden core and fuse the spirit and purple palace together with the shattered golden core. When the half-step Yuanying was formed, the heavenly tribulation of Yuanying would descend. However, the current Beiyuan Xiuxian was not enough to support a cultivator to break through to the half-step Yuanying. Cultivating a purplish gold golden core was the limit. An hour later, Lei Yan walked out of the cave abode. Yunhe cupped his fists and said, "Congratulations, senior brother. You've finally broken through to the half-step Yuanying." Wang Daoyuan and the others also bowed and said, "Congratulations, master." Lei Yan sighed and said, "It's just breaking through to the half-step Yuanying. There's nothing to congratulate. The half-step Yuanying only increases one's combat strength. His lifespan won't increase. No matter how strong he is in battle, he won't be able to escape death after 50 years. Chapter 507. After exchanging some pleasantries, the disciples of the Divine Weapon Pavilion who had come to watch and gain experience all left. Lei Yan's disciples and grand disciples also returned to their respective residences. Wang Daoyuan and the two half-step Yuanying cultivators entered their residences. Immortal Yunhe and Lei Yan exchanged a few words, then said to Wang Daoyuan, "Martial nephew Dao, there are some things that I have to say. You've already formed your golden core and your talent is rare. There's a saying that shallow water can't raise a dragon. The underworld sect is weak and its inheritance is mediocre. I have some understanding of the underworld sect. Those people don't have any abilities, but they are jealous of others. If you continue to stay in the underworld sect, it may affect your future path. If you join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, Senior Lei Yan can accept you as a true disciple. A half-step Yuanying true disciple and a golden core cultivator can immediately become an elder. When you become a half-step Yuanying, it's not impossible for you to sit in my position." Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, "I also know that the underworld sect is not tolerant. If I continue to stay in the underworld sect, I'll be ostracized. But the clan has been there for hundreds of years and has hundreds of thousands of people. We can't give up so easily. If I join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, I'll be betraying the underworld sect. Those people from the underworld sect can't do anything to me, but the hundreds of thousands of people can't withstand the underworld sect's revenge." Immortal Yunhe nodded, then took out a token and said, "It's not that there's no way to get the best of both worlds. This is the Divine Weapon Pavilion's Guest Elder token. You can be a guest elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion and enjoy the treatment of an elder. You don't have to join the Divine Weapon Pavilion directly. This way, you won't have to leave the underworld sect even if you're a member of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. I don't believe that those golden core cultivators of the underworld sect would dare to touch a guest elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion." This identity was very advantageous. If the clan wanted to develop in the future, they needed more people to form their golden core. Going through the golden core heavenly tribulation was like burning a fourth-grade magic weapon. There were only a few forces that could refine fourth-grade magic weapons in large quantities. Even if they had the inheritance of a fourth-grade weapon refiner, it would be difficult to obtain sufficient fourth-grade materials. The Divine Weapon Pavilion had quite a number of Tier 4 spirit ores, so the materials were not a problem at all. In addition, the status of the guest elder was also a great deterrent to the Netherworld sect. In front of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Netherworld sect was just a small force. Master does not have much lifespan left. After Master passes away, before little brother forms his Azoth core, he will be in a state where he does not have any backing in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The reason why the Netherworld sect dared to suppress the Wang family previously was because they had anticipated this period. They didn't think that Wang Daoyuan and his brother would be able to form their gold core before Lei Yan passed away. Without the protection of Taoist Lei Yan, Wang Daoyuan's chances of forming his core were slim. Now that he had the position of guest elder, he could be considered half a member of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Luo Jiuyo and his gang did not dare to deal with him openly. As a guest elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, he naturally could not reject such benefits. Wang Daoyuan received the token, cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Martial Uncle. This disciple is willing to be the guest elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion." Taoist Yunhe stroked his beard and smiled. "Good." During this period of time, the Divine Weapon Pavilion has been filled with happy events. Senior Lei Yan has broken through to the half-step Yuanying. My disciple Yu Buoqing has recovered his gold core, And now martial nephew Dao Yuan has become the guest elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. You master and disciple can chat first. I will go and arrange these things. After Daoist Yunhe left, Daoist Lei Yan smiled. In the past, I always wanted to break through to the half-step Yuanying, but I was injured in the early years and damaged my foundation, so I could not break through. Now that I don't have much lifespan left, it is meaningless to break through. Wang Daoyuan comforted him. Master, you don't have to be like this. Beiyuan Xiuxian used to have many soul formation cultivators. Who knows, there might still be treasures in the abodes of some senior experts that can form Yuanying. I will stay at the treasured Cauldron Mountain for a while to repair my natal Dharma artifact. After that, I will head to the demon-resisting mountain. At that time, I will search the southern wasteland and maybe find a 5th-grade spirit item. Daoist Lei Yan shook his head. If it is so easy to find a 5th-grade spirit item, Beiyuan Xiuxian would not have no Yuanying cultivators for 10,000 years. That's right. I am now a half-step Yuanying cultivator. My old injuries have healed and my strength has increased greatly. I will bring you to the demon-resisting mountain and bring back the earth essence. Wang Daoyuan quickly refused. Master, don't go to the demon-resisting mountain. There are many gold core devil cultivators there, and there might even be devils there. You will be too conspicuous there and might be attacked by them. Although a half-step Yuanying cultivator is strong, it will be difficult for him to withstand the attacks of many gold core devil cultivators. I have refined the spiritual fire, so my spiritual power is very mixed. Plus, I am a body refinement cultivator. Normal people will not be able to recognize me if I pretend to be a devil cultivator. After I repair my natal Dharma artifact and refine it, my strength will be stronger than most gold core middle stage cultivators. I will be able to retreat against gold core late stage devil cultivators. As long as I don't expose my identity, I won't be in any danger. Lei Yan Taoist master weighed the pros and cons, then nodded. You are right, but I am worried. My foundation was damaged in the southern wasteland, which is why I was unable to break through to the half-step Yuanying realm for hundreds of years. You have great fortune and might be able to form the Yuanying realm in the future. Don't follow my path and delay your path. Wang Daoyuan agreed. Master, don't worry. I have been traveling outside since I was 20 years old. Protecting myself is not a problem. Lei Yan Taoist master did not insist. I will do as you say. If you are in danger, use the purple lightning evil punishing token. Although it is not very powerful and can't help you much, it can let me sense your location. I will hurry over to save you. After that, Wang Daoyuan stayed in his master's cave to repair his 4 natal Dharma artifacts. Yinglong's final attack had caused great damage to his natal Dharma artifacts. Even though his cultivation had reached the early stage of the Golden Core realm, it took him nearly a year to repair all 4 Dharma artifacts. During this year, the Divine Weapon Pavilion also held a small celebration to celebrate 3 happy events. However, they did not hold a big celebration and only invited a few small forces nearby. The news of Wang Daoyuan forming his gold core and becoming the guest elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion also spread. Through the communication channels of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, he understood the situation of his family. After the underworld sect learned of his matter, they did not do anything and everything was peaceful. Wang Daoyuan was also relieved. He calmed himself down and stayed at the precious Cauldron Mountain, asking his master for more information about the Golden Core realm. After the 4 natal Dharma artifacts were repaired, Wang Daoyuan used the 4th-grade Heavenly Demon Metal and Tai Gold to refine the White Tiger Blade so that it could become a 4th-grade Dharma artifact as soon as possible. The 4 natal Dharma artifacts, the Black Tortoise Shield and the Vermilion Bird Fan, were all 3rd-grade superior-grade Dharma artifacts. It was not easy to find the materials and could only be slowly nourished with spiritual fire. The Tsong Dragon Pearl was strong enough. Its original material was very close to the 4th grade, and now it was only a step away from becoming a 4th-grade Dharma artifact. However, Wang Daoyuan did not have the ability to find a 4th-grade Pseudo-Dragon Pearl. The upgrade of the Tsong Dragon Pearl could only be done slowly. The only thing that could rapidly upgrade its grade was the White Tiger Blade. He used the Tai Golden Flame to refine the essence of the Heavenly Demon Metal and Tai Gold and merged it into the White Tiger Blade. After that, he improved the White Tiger Blade's pattern. After more than a month, the White Tiger Blade's grade was upgraded to 4th grade inferior grade. With the 4th grade inferior grade White Tiger Blade, it was possible to kill a mid-stage Golden Core Realm cultivator instantly. During this tribulation, the 5 elements divine beasts of the heavenly tribulation finally merged into Yinglong. This provided him with a direction to improve the 5 elements demon subduing seal in the future. After the 5 Dharma artifacts were combined, they could also be combined into a Dharma artifact similar to the Yinglong seal. However, in order to improve such a Dharma artifact and unleash an extremely strong power, he had to comprehend Yinglong's charm. It was extremely difficult to comprehend Yinglong's charm. He had never heard of any Dharma art that was related to Yinglong. As such, he could not find the Yinglong visualization diagram. Without the visualization diagram, how could it be easy to comprehend Yinglong's charm? Chapter 508. Wang Daoyuan didn't set off immediately after refining the White Tiger Blade to low-grade grade 4. Instead, he continued to refine other magic tools. The Azure Dragon Pearl wasn't far from a grade 4 magic tool. After refining it with the spiritual fire of life for a while and improving its pattern, it should be about there. Moreover, the Azure Dragon Pearl and the Vermilion Bird Fan hadn't been refined for long, so they weren't connected yet. Previously, he had taken advantage of the heavenly tribulation and comprehended the charm of the 5 elements divine beasts. Refining his natal magic tools to the point where they were connected would save him a lot of effort. After staying in the Treasure Cauldron Mountain for 3 years, the Azure Dragon Pearl and the Vermilion Bird Fan were connected. During these 3 years, the Azure Dragon Pearl had continuously absorbed the life force in the spiritual fire of life and become a low-grade grade 4 magic tool. After making all the necessary preparations, Wang Daoyuan bid farewell to his master. Knowing that Wang Daoyuan was leaving, Lei Yan took out a storage bag and gave it to him. This is something I used to deceive people when I was traveling in the southern wasteland in my early years. Wang Daoyuan opened the storage bag to take a look. There was a black cloak and a blood-red heavy sword inside. The cloak's shape wasn't strange, but Wang Daoyuan didn't recognize the material of the cloak. When he probed it with his spiritual sense, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. The blood-red heavy sword was more than 6 feet long and 1 foot wide, like half a door. This was a magic tool commonly used by body refinement cultivators, so there was nothing strange about it. He asked Lei Yan, "Master, how come I've never seen the material of this cloak before?" Lei Yan answered, "I got it when I was roaming the southern wasteland in my early years and killed a late-stage golden core demon. I've never seen the material before, but it's most likely related to demons. Even this heavy sword was obtained from him. When I killed him, I wasn't in the mood to ask him what it was, so I just called it the black magic robe. Even a half-step Yuaniing spiritual sense can't see through it. I've worn this black magic robe many times in the southern wasteland and it's quite effective. You'll be safe with it." After all, the soul-binding silk was only a second-tier material. It could not completely block the divine sense of a golden core cultivator. It was even more useless against a late-stage golden core cultivator. The devil race and devil cultivators of the Yin demon tribe may have stronger divine senses than righteous Dao cultivators of the same level. Relying on the soul-restricting silkworm silk alone, it was impossible to avoid the probing of their divine senses. With this black devil's robe, it would be much easier to ambush and escape. He then asked Lei Yan Zhenren about the demon-resisting mountain before leaving the Treasured Cauldron Mountain and heading southeast. He didn't arrogantly step on the auspicious clouds. Instead, he rode on the bone sword that he had obtained when he was roaming the southern wasteland. Flying 4 to 5,000 li in 2 hours was not as fast as flying 7 to 8,000 li in 2 hours, but the advantage was that it was not conspicuous. With the black demon robe draped over his body, even a golden core cultivator would not be able to easily see through his cultivation. It took them half a month to reach the south of the Demon Burial Mountain. The Southern Desolation's territory was vast. From the border of the Southern Desolation to Absolute Heaven Abyss, it was over 300,000 miles. After passing the Demon Burial Mountain, they entered the depths of the Southern Wasteland, where the spiritual chi suddenly became violent. Even devil cultivators without a Violet Palace realm cultivation would be killed by the violent spiritual chi. Most Violet Palace devil cultivators didn't dare to stay outside for too long. However, the adaptability of the human race had always been very strong. Some golden core devil cultivators would set up a formation that could warm the spiritual chi in places with spirit veins and establish a clan. Therefore, the depths of the southern wasteland wasn't a desolate place. There were many low-level devil cultivators and even ordinary people. However, they couldn't leave the protection of the formation unless they reached the Violet Palace realm. Fortunately, devil cultivators were different from righteous Tao cultivators. They cultivated by plundering the cultivation results of other living beings for their own use. It was much easier for them to reach the Violet Palace realm compared to righteous Tao cultivators. However, there were gains and losses. When they reached the core formation stage, their lightning tribulation would be much more terrifying than righteous Tao cultivators. There were many rank 4 spirit veins in the southern wasteland, and there were many golden core devil cultivators establishing their own clans. Wang Daoyuan also saw a few markets established by devil cultivator clans. His goal was the earth essence, so there was no need to complicate matters. Therefore, he didn't enter the market. However, in this place, flying on a sword for a long period of time was a bit too conspicuous. If golden core cultivators didn't fly on a sword, Violet Palace realm cultivators wouldn't be able to fly for long. In order to avoid attracting attention, Wang Daoyuan also rode on a black cloud and flew towards the south. The auspicious clouds of golden core cultivators were purely decorative. There was no problem for them to fly without riding on a cloud. Of course, riding on an auspicious cloud would make them look more stylish. Since it was a decorative item, the appearance and color of the auspicious cloud would be strange. It wouldn't be a problem for the auspicious cloud to transform into a horse. In order to appear more compatible, Wang Daoyuan condensed a black cloud filled with yin qi using water attribute spiritual qi. After using half a month's time, he arrived at the southernmost part of the southern wasteland. This place was already within the range of the demon-resisting mountain. The heaven-ending abyss was just 1,000 miles ahead. Looking at the heaven-ending abyss from afar, he could only see a patch of black qi. This black qi was extremely violent. It was like a huge black wave that continuously surged in the air. It rushed up to the clouds and even blocked the 9 heavens astral wind. With Wang Daoyuan's current cultivation, he would be able to stay in the 9 heavens astral wind for a short while. However, his body would also be severely damaged. This black qi could block the 9 heavens astral wind. Its power might be even stronger than the astral wind. Even peak golden core cultivators wouldn't be able to stay in there for too long. Back then, when Master entered the heaven-ending abyss with peak golden core cultivation, he was also unable to withstand it after only going 100 miles in. Wang Daoyuan was currently only early golden core cultivator. He absolutely didn't dare to take this risk. It was just that this black qi seemed to be blocked by an invisible wall and was unable to spread towards the north. This invisible wall should be the great formation set up by an almighty senior to protect Beiyuan Xiuxian. The shore of the heaven-ending abyss was the end of Beiyuan Xiuxian. The earth was severed by that sword back then. This black qi surged out from the cracks in the earth. Above the 9 heavens astral wind, below the severing mountains and valleys, it was indeed worthy of the name heaven-ending abyss. Wang Daoyuan was still self-aware. He knew what he was capable of and wouldn't rashly explore the heaven-ending abyss. However, the spiritual pearl in his Zifu was trembling slightly. It was as if something in the heaven-ending abyss was attracting him. Wang Daoyuan's previous life was a spiritual light nurtured by the spiritual pearl. He could be considered as the spiritual pearl's artifact spirit. Naturally, he could sense the spiritual pearl's reaction. He felt that there were 2 things in the heaven-ending abyss that he desired greatly. Of these 2 things, one was at the southern end of the heaven-mountain range, which was more than 20,000 miles to the south. He could roughly guess what this place was. According to the scene he saw when he opened his Zifu, that should be the place where the spiritual pearl was nurtured. That place could produce an extremely strong attractive force for him and the spiritual pearl. There should be something useful for the spiritual pearl. Who knows, it might be able to repair the cracks on the spiritual pearl. That place was at the edge of the heaven-ending abyss. After obtaining the earth essence, he could go and explore it. The other thing was that it was very close. It was about 4,000 to 5,000 miles to the south of him. It was just that the place was rather deep. It should be in the depths of the heaven-ending abyss. It was at least several 100,000 feet away from the surface. Furthermore, the feeling this place gave him was completely different from the place where the spiritual pearl was nurtured. That place gave him a feeling of home. While the thing in the depths of the heaven-ending abyss made him desire it, there was also a deep sense of fear. He could not guess what exactly was attracting him down there. Of course, even if he knew, it would be useless. Even Yuanian cultivators could not penetrate several 100,000 feet deep into the heaven-ending abyss. At this moment, on the southern shore of the heaven-ending abyss, under a giant plum tree, two old men were playing chess. Both of them had white hair and beards. Their bodies did not carry a trace of spiritual energy fluctuation. They both wore coarse cloth robes. It was just that one of them wore a black robe, while the other wore a white robe. The black-robed old man was just about to place down his chess piece when he suddenly stopped. He asked, "Old friend, do you feel that there are movements below the heaven-ending abyss?" The white-robed old man said unconcernedly, "How can I not feel it? This kind of movement is common. It's probably the devil remnants below causing trouble again. If it wasn't for the black gas in the heaven-ending abyss being a hindrance, I would have killed them all with a slap." Chapter 509. Wang Daoyuan, who was deep north of decimating heaven abyss, naturally didn't know about the conversation between the two old men. What he wanted was to get the earth essence as soon as possible and refine the Kirin seal. With the Kirin seal in hand, he could go to the birthplace of the spirit pearl to take a look. As for that thing in the depths of decimating heaven abyss, he didn't have the slightest idea about it. Just the black chi in decimating heaven abyss alone, he couldn't guarantee how long he could survive in it. Not to mention going thousands of miles deep and going down to look for something. It was said that there were many demon remnants hidden in decimating heaven abyss. Back then, even the Almighty couldn't get rid of all of them. If he, a golden core cultivator, rashly went down, wouldn't that be courting death? Wang Daoyuan ordered his clone Cui Ming to check the map given by Flying Sand Sanren in the Spirit Pearl space. According to the records on the map, he searched for the path that Flying Sand Sanren's master had taken back then. Because the spiritual energy in the entire demon-resisting mountain was too violent, spiritual plants that could grow here were extremely rare. Everywhere was bare, so finding the path wasn't difficult. The entrance of the path was a valley called Crescent Valley, named because it was shaped like a crescent moon. Thousands of feet in the air, finding an unobstructed valley wasn't difficult. Wang Daoyuan flew to a place over 100 miles west of Crescent Valley and descended from the sky. After all, he was unfamiliar with this place, so it was better to be careful. Using his spiritual sense to probe the rock layer beneath his feet, he could probe more than 3,000 feet into the rock layer. There weren't any problems with the rocks here, so he used the earth escape technique and went more than 2,000 feet underground. With the black magic robe on him, he wasn't afraid that someone could track him. After several dozen miles, a skinny humanoid creature appeared at the place where he used the earth escape technique. This guy's height was about the same as a child, and his appearance was similar to a human's. However, his nose was like an eagle's hook, and there was a 2-inch long horn between his eyebrows. This horn was pitch black like a rhinoceros horn. He sniffed at the place where Wang Daoyuan disappeared, and muttered to himself, "What a strange guy, there's the smell of black-winged demons, blood demons, and a human cultivator on his body." Spiritual energy actually has 5 different characteristics, and his spiritual sense has the characteristics of my soul-devouring demon lineage. After saying that, he also used an escape technique and burrowed underground. A moment later he came out from the ground again and said in surprise, "What a strong physical body, to be able to travel more than 300 meters underground in this place." Then, a ball of black energy appeared in his hand, and he placed it where Wang Daoyuan had disappeared. 10 breaths later, Zhang Xian took out the black ball of energy and placed it on the black horn on his glabella. Black horn absorbed the energy and emitted a black light, floating towards the east. At this time, Wang Daoyuan had already advanced more than 50 kilometers due east, reaching a depth of 500 meters below the Crescent Valley. The rocks here contained a large amount of non-elemental spiritual energy, and were extremely strong. If he released the 5-element spiritual fire to burn them, he would definitely be able to obtain a lot of spiritual energy. Of course, this was just a thought. Doing this would cause too much of a commotion. It would be troublesome if the demonic cultivators and demons were disturbed. The rock was strong and contained a lot of spiritual energy, so the pressure on the person using earth escape was also greater. Even with the strength of his physical body, he still felt great pressure at a depth of more than 500 feet. With the map left behind by that senior, He used his divine sense to explore and quickly found an underground cave. This cave was originally a karst cave, but there were many demonic beasts digging and traces of human carving. He didn't know that someone was following him, and he didn't know anything about the methods of the person following him. However, he didn't completely trust Flying Sand Loose Cultivator and wouldn't just follow the mark on the map and go straight down. Besides, who knew what changes had happened down there after a few thousand years? He still couldn't let down his guard. Taking out his clone Chui Ming from the space of the spiritual pearl, he gave him the spirit-isolating jade pendant and more than 10 Earth Escape talismans. He let Chui Ming scout ahead while he followed behind. The route left behind by that senior was extremely complicated, and there were many places where he needed to use the Earth Escape technique. After more than 2 hours, Wang Daoyuan had already arrived at a depth of 7,000 to 8,000 meters. At this time, Chui Ming, who was scouting ahead, was blocked by a formation. Wang Daoyuan was delighted. According to the records on the map, that senior had set up a formation here in order to prevent the Earth Essence from falling into the hands of others. Now that the formation was still there, it was possible that this place hadn't been discovered by demonic cultivators and demons. The method to enter the formation was also recorded on the map. To be safe, he decided not to go in. Wang Daoyuan controlled his clone Chui Ming to scout the formation according to the method. There was no problem with this method, and Chui Ming quickly entered the formation. The location of the Earth Essence marked on the map was at the center of an Earth spiritual vein. Chui Ming quickly arrived at an underground stone room. This stone room wasn't naturally formed, but was artificially carved. On the ground at the center of the stone room, there was an earthen yellow mineral vein. The mineral was like a translucent amber, and contained a rich earth attribute spiritual energy. Unlike ordinary ores, the earth attribute spiritual energy inside was flowing, and it was constantly emitting dense spiritual energy. This was the so-called spiritual vein, a spiritual vein crystal that only appeared on spiritual veins of the 4th level and above. On top of this spiritual vein crystal, there was a transparent earthen yellow crystal with a height of 5 inches and the thickness of an infant's arm. The earth attribute spiritual energy within it was even denser, and it was constantly absorbing earth attribute spiritual energy from the spiritual vein. This was the earth essence that Wang Daoyuan had been searching for nearly 100 years. The earth essence's strength wasn't high, and it wasn't suitable for refining equipment. However, regardless of whether it was added to other materials, or directly refined to refine the body, it would have a strong effect. Apart from that, if the earth essence was added to an earth spiritual vein, it could upgrade the spiritual vein. With such a large piece of earth essence, even if it was added to an earth spiritual vein of the 1st level, it would only take a few hundred years for the spiritual vein to reach the 4th level. Of course, the future of the spiritual vein would depend on its own luck. Refining the Kirin seal required the heaven-suppressing stone as the main body and the earth essence. Therefore, the amount of earth essence used was not much. With such a large piece of earth essence, there would still be some left over after refining the Kirin seal 3 times. Suppressing his excitement, he controlled his doppelganger, Chui Ming, and used a magic tool to cut down the earth essence. He only cut down a 5-inch long piece, leaving behind a 3-inch long piece of the earth essence. By leaving behind a stubble, the earth essence could continue to grow. If he were to take away all of it, it would probably take 10,000 years for the earth essence to grow again. After taking the earth essence, Wang Daoyuan immediately controlled his doppelganger, Chui Ming, and walked out. With the earth essence in his hands, he could finally feel at ease. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense detected a wisp of black light drifting towards him. This wisp of black light contained a strange spiritual energy and spiritual sense. It also seemed to contain the power of some kind of law. He had seen Zhou Wan's minor divine ability, the Scarlet Phoenix Divine Fire. This thing did seem to be some kind of divine ability. If that was the case, he had already been targeted by a gold core devil cultivator or the devil race. Wang Daoyuan didn't have time to think about where he had exposed his weakness. He shot out a ball of Gue water death flame in an attempt to burn this wisp of black light. At the same time, he summoned the Dark Note soul-burying bell to defend against spiritual sense attacks. His spiritual sense was also controlling the 4 natal magic tools in his dantian. Once the target appeared, he would be able to attack at any time. When this wisp of black light came into contact with the Gue water death flame, it was immediately wrapped up. The spiritual sense within was directly burned away. The spiritual energy and the power of law were extremely strange. The Gue water death flame was actually unable to burn it away. After a few breaths, the wisp of black light dissipated. At this moment, a wisp of black spiritual energy flew towards him. This wisp of spiritual energy was extremely similar to the wisp of black light from before. It was also related to a minor divine ability. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to be careless. He summoned the black tortoise shield to protect himself. At the same time, he activated the dark note soul-suppressing bell. A long sword formed from spiritual sense and sound waves struck towards the wisp of black spiritual energy. Chapter 5:10. The attack from the dark sound soul-burying bell hit the black mass of spiritual energy. The long sword formed by divine sense and sound waves was shattered, but the black mass of spirit energy only weakened a little and continued to attack Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. Under normal circumstances, the power of this black mass of spiritual energy should be slightly inferior to his own attack. But the result of the collision was the black mass of spiritual energy. This black mass of spiritual energy was too strange. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to take it head-on and used the smoke escape to dodge. Although he couldn't completely dodge it, it was good to delay it. At this time, his spiritual energy had already transformed into spiritual fire, and the clouds condensed by the smoke escape were all turned into black flames. He controlled these flames and wrapped them around the mass of spiritual energy. Soon, the spiritual energy in the black mass of spiritual energy was completely burned away. With the Gue water death flame wrapped around it, the opponent's spiritual energy couldn't penetrate it. Without the control of spiritual energy, the remaining power in the mass of spiritual energy quickly dissipated. Fortunately, the Gue water death flame could burn spiritual energy and restrain this kind of probing trick. Otherwise it would be troublesome. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. The spiritual power and spiritual sense contained in this spell was not much, but it was able to display an extremely strong strength. To do this, one had to rely on the power of law. Ordinary golden core cultivators could only comprehend the power of law and then use their spiritual energy to imitate the power of law to increase the power of their spells. They couldn't directly use the power of law to cast spells. Just by imitating, the increase in power was limited and couldn't reach the level of the black mass of spiritual energy. Generally speaking, those who could directly use the power of law were Yuanian cultivators. There were no Yuanian cultivators in Beiyuan Xiuxian, so this person must have comprehended a minor divine ability. Golden core cultivators who comprehended minor divine abilities were like Xueqi, inheriting the legacy of their ancestors. This was equivalent to someone taking the law and putting it in her hands. Those who had comprehended lesser magical powers on their own were like blind cats that had stumbled upon a dead mouse. They had accidentally grasped the power of the laws. Even if he didn't know much about the power of law, he could still use it to cast spells, and its power would be much stronger than ordinary cultivators who could only look at it and imitate it. Without the power of laws, one's strength was on a completely different level. Wang Daoyuan was now using a lower level of strength to deal with a higher level of strength. Under such circumstances, they could only rely on their advantage in numbers to make up for the difference in quality. Of course, the difference in quality was not particularly large. Wang Daoyuan hadn't comprehended a lesser divine ability, so he couldn't use the power of laws. However, he still had a power that was close to a lesser divine ability, and that was the charm of the Purple Mansion anomaly. The Purple Palace realm phenomenon was closely related to lesser divine abilities. Comprehending the divine beast's charm was also a way to comprehend the laws. The power of a divine beast's charm was not as strong as a minor divine ability, but it was still stronger than that of an ordinary golden core cultivator. Moreover, this person should be a demonic cultivator or a demon. The 5 elements devil suppression seal had a restraining effect on devil cultivators and devils. This restraining effect could be said to be a kind of suppression of laws. The 5 elements demonic seal combined with the divine beast's charm was enough to put up a fight against an ordinary late-stage golden core fiendish cultivator. Of course, the opponent in front of him was not an ordinary cultivator, but one with lesser divine abilities. If this person was a late-stage golden core cultivator, it would be very difficult for Wang Daoyuan to leave alive. If he was a mid-stage golden core cultivator, he could rely on various methods to escape unscathed. If he was an early-stage golden core cultivator, he would have a chance to kill his opponent. This guy's concealment ability was extremely strong, and his spirit energy balls were instantly released, so he didn't leave too many traces. Wang Daoyuan used his divine consciousness to scan the surroundings a few times, but he still couldn't find his opponent. The divine beast's charm and the 5 elements demonic seal could not be exposed for the time being. As long as his opponent didn't appear, he would use his spirit fire to slowly exhaust him. The opponent released a few more spirit energy balls to probe, but they were all neutralized by Wang Daoyuan with the Gue water death flames. Then, a long black saber pierced out from the ground. Wang Daoyuan used the smoke escape to dodge and controlled the flames to attack the long black saber. This long black saber's power was much greater, and it took 3 breaths of time to completely neutralize it. Then a guy with a hooked nose and a black horn between his eyebrows appeared in front of Wang Daoyuan and laughed. A mere early-stage golden core cultivator unexpectedly has such ability. Which branch of demonic cultivator are you? Why can't I see it? This guy looked strange, and Wang Daoyuan could tell at a glance that he wasn't human. Of course, it was unlikely that he was a vicious beast or a demonic beast, as vicious beasts couldn't transform. Demonic beasts were also a group of iron, and few liked to play tricks, and there were no demonic beasts living in the southern wasteland. Looking like a human but not a human, and liked to play sneak attacks, then he could only be a remnant of the demon race. This demon cultivator was just casually probing, and he had an extremely strong concealment technique, so Wang Daoyuan couldn't see his cultivation level. Wang Daoyuan didn't reply, and directly used the water dragon technique with the Gue water death flames, splitting out 2 more than 10 zhong-long flame black dragons to sneak attack this demon cultivator. The big black dragon turned into a water dragon armor to protect himself. This demon cultivator also condensed 2 black blades to sneak attack Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used the water dragon prison to trap the 2 black blades. The Gue water death flames burned the power of spiritual sense, and the 2 black blades quickly dissipated. The demon cultivator also waved his hand to release 2 black lights to disperse the 2 water dragons. Wang Daoyuan laughed. Although your little divine ability is powerful, these little tricks are useless against me. It's better to use the real thing. Before his voice fell, Wang Daoyuan used the smoke escape, condensing black flames all over the sky. But he didn't escape, just used the rootless fire of the Gue water death flames to monitor his every move, and consume his spiritual sense power. If this demon cultivator hit again, he could find his position through the flames. This demon cultivator also saw Wang Daoyuan's intention, and didn't hide his figure. The black horn between his eyebrows was constantly gathering spiritual power, preparing to attack with all his strength. Wang Daoyuan saw that this guy's cultivation was also at the early golden core stage. Now that he used all his strength, there was no way he could escape with the strong spiritual power fluctuations on his body. Wang Daoyuan summoned all his natal magic artifacts, condensed the 5 elements demon suppression seal, and suppressed the demon cultivator. This demon cultivator obviously didn't expect Wang Daoyuan to have such a trump card, and his face showed surprise. Then, he hurriedly released the unfinished spell. A black skull formed by black spiritual power bypassed the 5 elements demon suppression seal at an extremely fast speed, and went straight for Wang Daoyuan's forehead. This was a method of exchanging a life for a life. This spell could still be so flexible under the suppression of the 5 elements demon suppression seal, which caught Wang Daoyuan a little off guard. The 5 natal magic artifacts were still lacking the Kirin seal, and the combined 5 elements demon suppression seal couldn't be controlled with ease, so there was no time to help. This thing was too fast. If he didn't have a reliable defensive method, there was no point in using the smoke escape to stall for time. Instead, he would be even more passive. The 5-element spirit fire flew out from Wang Daoyuan's forehead, constantly consuming the black skull's power. The Gue water death flame's effect of burning one's consciousness was not very effective against this all-out attack. It was just that the black skull's flying speed was greatly reduced after being enveloped by the spirit fire. In particular, the pure yang qi of the scarlet yang primordial fire had an obvious restraining effect on the black skull. Wang Daoyuan took the opportunity to use the smoke escape to dodge and stall for time as much as possible. He also increased the output of the scarlet yang primordial fire, and burned the black skull to ashes in a dozen breaths' time. When the black skull disappeared, it was only half an inch away from his forehead, and even more than half of the water dragon armor was broken. Wang Daoyuan was exceptionally envious of the fact that a minor ability that had yet to be fully unleashed had such power. On the other side, the demon cultivator was smashed by the 5 elements demon suppression seal. However, he seemed to have a defensive Dharma artifact on him, and Wang Daoyuan was distracted to save himself, so he didn't activate the 5 elements demon suppression seal with all his might. This guy wasn't smashed to death, but he was severely injured. Under the suppression of the 5 elements demon suppression seal, he couldn't move at all. The demon cultivator was too sinister, and Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to approach him easily. Instead, he used the Gui water death flame to envelop him, and the scarlet yang primordial fire on the outer layer. His previous attacks had been neutralized by the spirit fire, and now that he was severely injured and suppressed, there was no way he could break through the spirit fire. Chapter 5:11. Wang Daoyuan let out a sigh of relief. Golden core cultivators with minor abilities were indeed strong. The first time he fought against a minor ability, he almost lost his life. This demon had a minor ability that could be refined into a doppelganger. Using the doppelganger's panoramic perception, he could comprehend the laws. Although he couldn't directly comprehend the doppelganger's minor ability, it was still very beneficial for him to comprehend it. The doppelganger soul nurturing technique worked on all life forms with souls, and demons were naturally no exception. It was just that he knew too little about demons. It was hard to say which branch this guy belonged to. If he was of the Een demon branch, his soul might be stronger than his. If he had some sort of soul secret technique, he wouldn't be his opponent at all. Before refining into a doppelganger, it was best to exhaust his spiritual sense first. Controlling the Gui water hell flame, he entered his sea of consciousness. Through the Gui water hell flame, Wang Daoyuan saw what a demon's sea of consciousness looked like. It was pitch black all around, and there was no purple palace. In the center was a huge true demon phantom, a bit like the purple palace of a human cultivator. The true demon phantom held a transparent energy shield in its hands, with a black human figure inside. This should be the demon's soul, or demon's soul. Wang Daoyuan controlled the Gui water hell flame to burn the transparent energy shield. The demon's soul urged its spiritual sense to resist, but it was quickly burned by the Gui water hell flame. Then, something similar to spiritual power poured into the sea of consciousness, blocking the Gui water hell flame. This should be the spiritual power cultivated by demons. It was very different from the spiritual power of humans and demons. Even for demon cultivators, their spiritual power was between righteous cultivators and demons, but closer to righteous human cultivators. He learned from his master that the 5 elements of human spiritual power didn't have much effect on demon spiritual power. But yin and yang were very effective against demon spiritual power. There was also the power of heaven's might and divine beasts, which had some restraining effect on demons. This was also an important reason why the 5 elements demon subduing seal could restrain demons and demon cultivators. The Gui water death flame didn't have much use for the demon race's spiritual power, but the scarlet yang true fire from before restrained the demon race's spiritual power. This demon race might be a Een demon. The true fire of the scarlet sun contained pure yang qi, and it was related to the divine beast golden crow. It was natural that it could restrain the demon clan's spiritual power. He then followed the passage opened by the Gui water death flame and continuously poured the scarlet yang true fire into the demon sea of consciousness. When the devil clan's spiritual power saw the scarlet yang real fire, it quickly dissipated. After the dissipation of the demon's spirit power, part of it was refined by the Gui water death flame. It seemed that this demon cultivator really was a Een demon. After half a quarter of an hour, this guy's spiritual power was exhausted, and the Gui water death flame burned towards his devil soul. The huge true demon phantom moved and waved its hand to disperse the flames. Wang Daoyuan activated the 5 elements devil subduing seal. The vermilion bird fan and the black tortoise shield appeared in their true forms and forcefully entered the demon cultivator's sea of consciousness. The 2 mythological beasts, the vermilion bird and the black tortoise, charged toward the true demon projection. The true demon projection was extremely powerful, and the vermilion bird fan and the black tortoise shield were only of the 3rd grade. Their true forms were not strong enough. Wang Daoyuan infused divine charm into them and used his purple palace resonance. 2 against 1, they managed to suppress the true demon projection. The Gui water death flame burned towards the demon soul, and it quickly lost the ability to resist. To be safe, he decided to use the soul-severing blade to test the waters. The soul-severing blade slashed, and the demon soul was indeed injured. Then, Wang Daoyuan condensed the soul-severing blade and slashed at the demon soul's forehead. He did not take out the soul fragment in the soul-nurturing pendant, but the soul fragment of Tu Yoming's clone. The soul fragment in the soul-nurturing pendant was left behind by a Foundation establishment cultivator. It was unlikely that it would succeed in controlling a golden core clone. It was more reliable to fuse a soul fragment that had been nurtured by the Purple Palace avatar. After the soul fragment was fused, Wang Daoyuan did not let down his guard. He called out Cui Ming from the formation, took the earth essence, and had him stand guard above. As for the demon clone, he continued to use the 5 elements devil subduing seal to suppress it. After the soul fragment was fully controlled, it would be stored in the spirit pearl. After Cui Ming explored the tunnel above, he didn't find any traces of other demons. 2 days later, the soul fragment successfully controlled the clone. From the demon's memories, he learned that this demon was called Devouring Soul, a soul-devouring demon of the Een demons. Soul-devouring demons' main method was to attack the soul. By devouring the opponent's soul, they could increase their own strength. What interested Wang Daoyuan was that this demon's memories contained a secret technique of the soul-devouring demon lineage, the soul-devouring technique. This secret technique could devour souls and increase the strength of one's own soul. At the same time, it could also repair the damage to one's own soul. It was useful even for golden core cultivators. This soul-devouring technique was very similar to the doppelganger soul-nurturing technique. The guy who created the doppelganger soul-nurturing technique most likely used the soul-devouring technique as a reference. With the soul-devouring technique as a reference, it was possible to make up for the doppelganger soul-nurturing technique's flaw of not being able to recover the soul. Through devouring souls' memories, he also understood some of the fiend race's situation. These fiend race remnants were all the remnant soldiers and defeated generals left behind when the fiend race invaded back then. They hid in the absolute heaven abyss and borrowed the black gas to deceive that group of human major powers. These few years, although the fiend race multiplied quite a bit, they also did not dare to show their faces at will. The array formation on the shore of the absolute heaven abyss had extremely strong killing effects on the fiend race. The majority of the fiends hiding in the absolute heaven abyss were unable to go ashore at all and could only struggle to survive below. The fiends of the fiend-resisting mountain were all powerhouses who escaped from the absolute heaven abyss back then. However, their days were not easy either. The Divine Weapon Pavilion and Tai Sword sex people frequently came to take care of them. Fiendish cultivators would also hunt fiends and use them to cultivate fiendish cultivation methods. This fiend-resisting mountain was still fiendish cultivators' territory. The fiend race was still lacking. And Devouring Soul's parents both escaped from the absolute heaven abyss. But they were already dead. He did not have any backing. Coming to hunt down Wang Daoyuan this time, he also came alone. With this, Wang Daoyuan set his mind at ease. At least, his whereabouts were not exposed. Devouring Soul's divine ability was still very powerful. It contained penetrating and devouring souls, 2 kinds of laws. His penetrating law was not like metal attribute's penetrating defense. Instead, it bypassed objects at an extremely fast speed. This law had a bit of the taste of spatial law. No wonder it could ambush him under the suppression of the 5 elements devil subduing seal. Fortunately, this penetrating law was only useful on rocks and other solid bodies. It was ineffective against spiritual fire. This was also the reason why that skeleton previously was restrained by spiritual fire. Withdrawing the 5 elements devil subduing seal, and putting the clone devouring soul back into the spiritual bead space. Just now, Cui Ming already probed the situation inside the array formation. There were no problems inside. This array formation was still intact and had not been exposed for several thousand years. It was considered a rare safe place. Now that his whereabouts were not exposed, he could refine the Kirin seal here. With the 5 life-bound magic artifacts complete, his strength could also improve by a lot. He should be able to defeat the average late-stage golden core, as well as middle-stage golden core with minor divine abilities. He could go to the heavenly/mountain range and explore the situation of the spiritual bead's birthplace. Wang Daoyuan entered the stone room where the earth essence was born and prepared to refine the Kirin seal. The Kirin seal was the core of the 5 elements devil subduing seal. Other than its own functions, It also needed to be connected with the tool patterns of the other 4 magic artifacts. The tool patterns were the most complicated. Moreover, it used 4th-grade materials and was the most difficult to refine. However, Wang Daoyuan was already a golden core cultivator. The 5-element spiritual fire in his body had also become a 4th-grade inferior grade. Refining 4th-grade materials was not a problem. He drew out the dust-returning flame and began to refine the heaven-suppressing stone. He had obtained the heaven-suppressing stone 3 times in a row. It was more than enough to refine a Kirin seal. He took out the fist-sized heaven-suppressing stone that his master had given him. After softening it with the dust-returning flame, he forged it into the shape of the Kirin seal. Currently, the Kirin seal was only 4 inches square. After that, he used the dust-returning flame to refine the earth essence. He fused the melted earth essence into the Kirin seal. After the Kirin seal absorbed the earth essence, it gradually grew in size and eventually grew to 6 inches square. After forging it into shape, the next step was to store it in his body and use his divine sense to condense the tool pattern. After spending more than a year, he finally finished condensing the Kirin seal's tool pattern. With the 5 life-bound magic artifacts, the 5 elements devil subduing seal was finally complete. Chapter 5:12. After refining the 5 elements demon subduing seal, Wang Daoyuan was not in a hurry to go to the sky/mountain range. Instead, he continued to nurture his natal dermic artifacts. A natal dermic artifact had to be nurtured for a long time in order to unleash its powerful strength. Now that he had all 5 dermic artifacts, he could fuse them together and test the effects of the refinement. The 5 dermic artifacts were currently in his dantian, staying on the corresponding spirit power seeds and absorbing spirit power. Under Wang Daoyuan's control, the 5 dermic artifacts fused into one and turned into a 9-inch square seal. The seal entered his sea of consciousness. Wang Daoyuan fused the charm of the 5 elements divine beasts that he had comprehended and the power of his spirit consciousness into it. A year later, the entire 5 elements demon subduing seal had been refined to the point where it could be controlled freely. The black tortoise shield and vermilion bird fan had also improved slightly, but they had not reached the point where they could advance. Although he often used his clone to execute minor divine abilities and had a deeper understanding of the power of laws, his spirit consciousness had improved. The power of using spirit power and spirit consciousness to imitate the power of laws had also increased slightly. However, Wang Daoyuan still had no clue about his own minor divine abilities. Without his ancestral battle constitution, comprehending minor divine abilities was like searching for a needle in a haystack. Now that he had a clone, it was like searching for a needle in a haystack. There was no way to count on this. It still depended on luck. There was no room for improvement in the short term. It was time to go to the birthplace of the Spirit Pearl. His clone had grown up on the demon-resisting mountain and was very familiar with the place. Wang Daoyuan left the cave and rode a cloud towards the east. According to Devouring Spirit's memories, he avoided a few dangerous places and did not encounter any danger. Along the way, he saw some lone golden core fiendish cultivators. However, they could not see through Wang Daoyuan's black demon robe and did not dare to make a move. From Devouring Spirit's memories, he learned that the black demon robe that Wang Daoyuan was wearing was refined from the wings of a black-winged demon. Black-winged demons belonged to the Een demon lineage and were good at sneak attacks. Their wings were the protection of their bodies and could completely ignore the spirit consciousness of cultivators one level higher than them. The black demon robe was made from the wings of early-stage golden core black-winged demons. Therefore, this black devil's robe was able to block the detection of early Yuanian cultivators. A journey of over 20,000 kilometers was nothing to a golden core cultivator. Soon, they arrived near the Heaven/Mountain Range's main mountain range. Although he had been roaming around the Heaven/Mountain Range since he was 20 years old, this was the first time he had come into close contact with the main vein of the Heaven/Mountain Range. The height of the entire mountain range was over 30,000 meters. Apart from the 10,000 Rivers Valley, the Heaven's End Abyss, and the 10,000 Corpse Taoist Master's Path, the only way to cross the mountain range was to enter the 9 heavens astral winds. Furthermore, the Heaven/Mountain Range was very wide. Even the narrowest region of the Wanchuan River was more than 5,000 kilometers wide. To travel 10,000 miles in the astral winds of the 9 heavens was not something a gold core cultivator could do. After arriving here, Wang Daoyuan felt as though he had left his hometown for many years and returned to it. Although the vegetation here was sparse and the ground was littered with rocks, he still felt a sense of familiarity. The place that was very attractive to him was inside the mountain, which was only a few hundred miles away from him. At this moment, the spiritual pearl in his violet palace began to tremble. He wished he could immediately rush out of his violet palace and drill into the mountain. With Wang Daoyuan's current cultivation, he could already control the movement of the spiritual pearl. However, he did not dare to release the spiritual pearl. After all, it was the main spirit vein of the entire cultivation world, a treasure that took countless years to nurture. He also did not stay in an absolutely safe place. Once he released his spiritual pearl, who knew how big of a commotion it would cause? He flew to the vicinity of the Heaven/Mountain Range, which was also the shore of the Heaven/Mountain Range. Although there was a large formation protecting it, there was still a faint black chi that spread over. After the black chi passed through the large formation, it quickly turned into extremely violent non-elemental spirit chi. This should be the reason why the spirit chi in the southern wasteland was so violent. However, the spirit chi here was really dense, comparable to the spirit chi at the treasured Cauldron Mountain. It was a pity that it was too violent. Even Wang Daoyuan, a golden core body refiner, did not dare to cultivate here. If he just stayed here, he could still barely endure it. No matter if it was fiendish cultivators or ferocious beasts, they were all unwilling to cultivate here. Therefore, this place was extremely quiet. Only in the formation, there would occasionally be fiends coming and going. These fiends dared to cross the large formation. Even if they did not die, they would not have much breath left. There was no need to worry. Back then, that sword split open the cave where the spiritual pearl was nurtured. The majority of the cave was still north of the absolute heaven abyss. That sword did not directly strike the spiritual pearl. It only carried a sharp chi that sliced the spiritual pearl apart. Right now, the location of the underground cave just happened to be on the north shore of the absolute heaven abyss. It coincided with the location where that sword split open. However, the cave was not exposed. To the south of the cave, there was still a mountain range that was dozens of miles long. It extended into the absolute heaven abyss, like a broken bridge. In the image that Wang Daoyuan saw when he opened his purple mansion, there was no such broken bridge-like mountain. It should have been formed later. On this mountain that was formed later, there were also dense formation patterns. The cave was sealed by the newly formed mountain. To enter the cave, one had to rely on digging. Of course, one could not dig openly. This Heaven/Mountain Range had stood here for countless years. Back then, it was also the main battlefield against the fiend race. After experiencing countless great battles, there were definitely many rock cracks in the vicinity. After casually searching for a while, he found quite a few. Choosing a crack deep underground, he executed the earth escape technique, passing through 6,000 to 7,000 feet of rock strata before he escaped into the crack. Ever since the Heaven/Mountain Range was born, it had always been an attributeless spirit vein. The spiritual energy in the mountain's rocks were also attributeless. Wang Daoyuan released all 5 types of spiritual fire, burning towards the location of the stone room. After the spiritual fire broke through to Tier 4, the speed of burning rocks also improved a lot. Advancing more than 10 miles in a day was not a problem. 2 months later, Wang Daoyuan arrived at the cave that nurtured the spiritual pearl. This place was not considered very big. The entire cave should originally be a hemispherical space with a diameter of more than 100 feet. However, there was a gap in the south. It should have been sliced open by that sword back then. The gap was blocked by rocks. Above the cave, there was a nearly transparent spirit vein crystal. Above the spirit vein crystal, there was even a stalactite-like spirit vein crystal pillar hanging down. This was the main spirit vein of Beiyuan Xueqi. Once damaged, it would affect the concentration of spiritual energy in the entire immortal cultivation world. In the center of the cave, there was a circular stone platform with a diameter of about 10 feet. In the center of the stone platform, there was a pit with a diameter of 1 foot, facing the spirit vein crystal pillar above. In the pit was a grayish-purple liquid. The color of this liquid was exactly the same as the color of the previous spiritual pearl. The spiritual pearl was nurtured by this liquid. Now it was still condensing this liquid. Could it be that the Heaven/Mountain Range wanted to nurture another spiritual pearl? When the spiritual pearl was nurtured, it took the entire world countless years to condense. Now, with only Beiyuan Xiuxian, it was impossible to nurture it. At this time, the spiritual pearl in Wang Daoyuan's sea of consciousness trembled violently, wanting to fly out. Wang Daoyuan wanted to put this liquid into the spiritual pearl's space. He used many methods, but he could not move this liquid at all. In desperation, he had to risk releasing the spiritual pearl. His divine sense controlled the spiritual pearl to move out of the sea of consciousness, and the spiritual pearl immediately fell into the pit on the stone platform. At this time, dark clouds began to appear in the sky outside. Rumbling thunder came from the dark clouds from time to time. The spiritual energy within a radius of tens of thousands of miles became violent. The grayish-purple liquid automatically merged into the spiritual pearl. After the spiritual pearl absorbed this liquid, the cracks slowly shrank. After half a cup of tea's time, the liquid in the pit was completely absorbed. There was still a half-inch long crack on the spiritual pearl. At this time, the spirit vein crystal pillar above was constantly dripping with grayish-purple liquid. The entire heaven/mountain range began to shake, and the concentration of spiritual energy dropped significantly. This stone room was close to the border of Absolute Heaven Abyss. Absolute Heaven Abyss was also affected. Close to the stone room, black gas surged. The heaven/mountain range extended into the broken bridge of Absolute Heaven Abyss. It was crazily absorbing the black gas and merging into the spirit vein. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.